Hello, everyone. Welcome back. God, it's been a bit since we had our last episode. Well, has it been a month?
Something like that.
Feels like it's been a year.
For most of us, it's been a month, but
No.
probably felt like a year
totally
due to
has
the
been a
clues.
year.
Last one was last year.
Yeah.
Yes, that was what I was
Okay.
referring to.
Okay. I see. It feels regarding though. It feels like it's been a year since those cues of.
It's been 84 years.
Those cues are terrible and make you wait.
What cues? I'm on Crystal and I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, I did become bonified.
You do know, Neela, because I'm on Crystal too, and we had queues. It just wasn't ridiculous like some other data centers.
Well, frankly, Brynhilder has very low queues compared to the others, so.
I'm on Balmong, so we
Well,
had
there's
queues.
your problem.
See,
Yeah, every
I'm
time
on
I long on my
Excalibur.
Balmong out, it's like oof.
And Excalibur, Primal had some pretty bad ones. Excalibur, it's not exactly a really populated server, but it still had some obscene amount of queues, just depending on what time of day.
Ultros and Hyperion were the same way.
Now, the real question here is, can everyone in chat hear everyone who has talked just fine? Because there have been some setup changes.
You've got some echo.
Don't all adventures have the echo?
Get out.
Gotta get the puns out of the way early, come on.
Oh, we'll have more. Don't worry.
This was warned early on.
I can press buttons. There we go.
Someone went max volume. Do you see who it was?
It's probably because of my terrible joke.
We had an expansion come out, apparently, a while back.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. How'd that go?
I heard we walked somewhere.
Somewhere it had something about the end or something. Don't remember.
I do recall some walking at the end, yes.
People were saying how, and that's because he's trying to fix his stuff.
Well, in the meantime, one this week. It's a new you.
Good. Crafting Savage dropped. Made a bunch of money.
Hello all, I'm sincerely sorry. It was the only thing I didn't check. Can you hear me? Can you hear everyone else?
Can you hear me?
Oh, jeez.
There we go.
My dearest friends, I'm so sorry. By way of explanation, I got a Wave XLR recently, and I had set up my personal stream, and had fixed everything for the stream, but had not fixed this stream with the audio interface. And unfortunately, we started the 30-minute timer before I realized that. Literally a minute before I realized that. So... Tragedy. Sorry for the delay. Welcome to Lorelines episode 40, everybody. It has been a long month. I'm so sorry about not having content for you guys, but we are so excited to be back and talk story with you. I'm finally finished. Fallon here. I got a 3-person party with the cast here, and we did MSQ with some of my guild mates, and I'm caught up. I'm done. So we are here, and we're ready to party, and looks like we have everyone here today.
You take so long to complete MSQ.
I did.
Yes, he literally finished it last night at like midnight.
Yeah, we were there and watched, and some of us joined in to help.
Also, I don't want to count the amount of screenshots you took, because it was every 2 seconds, and I'm pretty sure you were on the same scene for like the next 10-15 seconds. So you have pictures of the same scene.
Yeah, it's the dialogue boxes.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
what
but
I
it's
did.
The
too.
same dialogue box, though.
Well,
It
yeah,
hasn't
my brain
changed.
just- my
I
brain.
watched you take pictures of empty space. There was
Hey,
no dialogue box.
That's true. I did do that once. I'm like, wait a minute.
Nothing had changed.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
Sludge. A good many of us. I was done Monday after release, early release, and I know that several of us also recorded our playthroughs.
Mhm.
So we will have MSQ reactions going up on our YouTube channel at some point when things have gotten calmer.
Yeah.
I was a little slower working through, but Sledge actually was able to pop in and hang out with me a few times, which was fun.
I wanted to ask just one little more admin thing for the viewers. Right now I have game audio playing. Is it overpowering? Is it distracting? I'm in old
I don't hear it
Charlie.
anymore.
Gonna go with that's a no.
A
too
little
high?
too high.
Very good. Hold on. I'll just bring it way down to 50. All right. Well, that was a fun administrative issue. Sorry, everybody. So, Endwalker. I don't know how we want to discuss it. It was so long and good.
Well, I have a good place for us to start, actually, for
You do?
once.
Okay.
Yes. Since you finished, 12 hours ago,
Yep.
why don't you give us your first impressions?
Sure. That sounds great. So, my literal first impressions was with the ship to Charlian at the start of the game. I wasn't really sure if we were going there right away or not, but it made complete sense in retrospect. And I really loved what they did with the soundtrack and making you immediately get out of your Shadowbringer's rut and just kind of feel feelings. The entire expansion to me felt like coming home, which was kind of my baseline prediction. I mentioned a few times just to give people context on who the Scions are in the story and where they come from. Literally, it's their home. We're the only one who's not from there in some way. And so I figured it was going to be a lot like a homecoming, and it certainly was. The story really goes places, so I can't really go into the meat of the middle of the game without us all talking about it. But I think the way I feel overall is that Shadowbringers increased the stakes so much that the game didn't impact me emotionally the way Shadowbringers did. But I'm still really satisfied with how they were able to incorporate everything. There are some story inconsistencies which we may get into and stuff like that. But I was talking to my wife this morning about it, just explaining, because she was curious how I enjoyed it as well, right? How, you finished? Great. How was it? Oh yeah, it was good. But the stuff I have complaints about, it's the kind of stuff that somebody would just say, nerd. A bunch
That
of
sounds
minor
like you were
stuff.
reviewing a movie.
Nitpicking. I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the game. So that's my very broad brush, very, very broad brush impressions. Do we wanna
Next
talk
question,
detail?
then.
Okay.
What is everyone's favorite zone if it isn't Elpis?
If it isn't Elpis,
Oh, jeez.
Ultima
Well, then,
Thule.
Oh my
Ultima
God.
Thule.
Ultima Thule is next, yeah.
I'm sorry, but I hold it over Elpis. That's just me, my personal preference, because I'm a fan of sci-fi.
yeah.
A lot of sci-fi. I absolutely love space, and so I'm sorry, I hold
High
it.
five.
Yes, I hold it over Elpis, unfortunately. In that
The
regard.
Tempest is still my favorite zone in the game. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Elpis didn't hit the same notes for me.
So
That's fair.
Mostly because of, well, we'll get into it later.
I mean,
so-
I love
am-
Ultima Thule, and I love the progression of it. Elpis is hands down my favorite zone in a long time, though. But I have to say, if I can't pick Elpis, I like to hang out in Mare.
That's
Yeah,
That's
Mare
also a
Layman's
really
Ward
great
is
zone.
good.
I'm going to be the odd one out here and say that my favorite zone, aside Elpis, was Garlemald.
guess what?
Yes.
Guess what, Meowth? You're not the odd one out. I really think that Garlemald was so well done. The pacing was perfect. The level of depression was exactly what it should have been.
Absolutely.
And-
It's definitely up there for me as well.
And
The entire
and
Garlemald
the
arc
solo
was
duty,
Pacing of depression.
the solo duty as well. Like, whew, chef kiss.
The solo duty was phenomenal.
Absolutely amazing.
I really hope they don't nerf it because I think it did a really good job of really showing how powerless the Garleans are compared to the Warrior of Light.
I mean, that is the point of it. I mean, you can do it on lower
Yeah.
difficulties, right? If you
Yeah, there
fail.
are lower. Yeah,
You
exactly.
really- if
There's
you
lower
fail the wrong
difficulties.
way.
This last patch, they did also make a slight adjustment to the solo duty because people were having so many problems with the scavenging part of things. There's literally
That's-
only one mech that had
It was
the
so
thing you
funny to me
needed.
because I had almost no trouble with it.
I had trouble, but it was meant to have trouble.
Yeah, I had
Yeah.
to run back and forth a
Yeah,
little
like, you
bit,
find
but
the
it
right
wasn't
one.
that bad.
No, it was fine.
I had to like reorient.
I wanted to say regarding Ultima Thule, the zones are really great and the set pieces are cool, but the music and the way they chose to fade it in as you progress the story is what sells you on the zone.
Agreed.
If you take the music away, Elpis is a hard 10 and Ultima Thule's like an 8 or a 7.5. But the way they did the story and the music, it brings it up to a 9 to me. But I think if we're not choosing an Elpis, then Garlemald and Ultima Thule are probably the best zones. I did really enjoy Labyrinthos, but I did not enjoy how it fell for the Stormblood trap of kind of like you go there and then you can't unlock the other Aetherites for levels and levels and levels and levels and levels.
I think that Labyrinthos, especially because of the latter section of it,
Yeah.
before you go to Ultima Thule, that really felt like it dragged for the most part. Like that
Yeah.
kind of made it my least favorite zone, even though I like it conceptually.
The
Is that
fact
the
that it
zone?
had Rabbit Soup Boogaloo 2.
Super
Oh my
big.
Yeah,
Wine
yeah.
2.0.
That part didn't go quickly for me. I just don't enjoy the Lockrits that much, which is ironic because I'm a big Final Fantasy IV fanboy, but you know.
I like them well enough.
You don't like their
I like
their adorable furriness, amazing use of English, and then also their like scathing passive aggressive sarcasm.
Oh no!
The scathing passive aggressive sarcasm I did appreciate, but I'm just looking at these little things, censoring a bit, and thinking, why the hell do they have creation magic and yet I'm not allowed to have it? This is bullshit. I
Yeah.
hate this. I'm going to kill them and take the creation
Yes.
magic.
And who
Found-
gave
Yes.
them
It
It
creation
doesn't even
magic?
make whatever.
Fao just learned
I
today
will
that
say the
creation
fact that
magic-
I had been awake for like 20 hours when I got to Mare Lamentorum the first time and, you know, got to the Lopperits, I was steaming angry
You were mad.
going through the Lopperit. Yeah, because
You did
I
this
mean,
to
I was
yourself.
I was tired for one, but two, I think that section of the MSQ is worse than the Moogle cock block in Heavensward. That's like the one part of the MSQ where I'm just like, I just want to rip all these pages out of my Warrior of Light's journal so I don't have to do this when I New Game Plus.
I did not have negative feelings about the Bun Buns.
Same.
They made me smile.
I thought they were all right. It wasn't like special or anything, but they were serviceable. I was just confused mainly by the fact that Heidelin was like, "This is a good solution as
Yeah.
a backup plan, is to create this," and I'm like, "Okay, that seems
That plus
questionable."
the events that occur beforehand had me kind of soured on the whole thing.
Well, yeah, you go through into the Loprit stuff right after Zodiac, and I'm like, I'm mentally trying to process
and my
that everything.
boyfriend,
That too.
I
will
agree
say-
with that completely.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was very lukewarm on the Lopperits when they first introduced them. But the second time you really interact with them in Labyrinthos, they really grew on me. And then in the dungeon, in Smileton, where they confirm that Heidelin smells like cabbages, that's where they sold me. And Kappa mentioned that in the chat.
Oh, that's so great. That's the one part of the expansion that I think the pacing was off was the jump
Yes.
from Tower of Babel to Zodiark's Gone. That was so quick. And
Well, that
pulled
and then the
Heidelin
jump into
out
the
of a
it
field
Lopperits.
of,
was it was disorienting.
it
to
should have
me.
been
Yeah.
and again, no game is perfect, but I think it should have been a solid 90 seconds of game or 90 minutes of gameplay between the two events.
Yeah, like I
just
said
fill
this
it out a
in
little bit.
Discord a while back, but the impression I get is that in deciding to end the arc in 6.0 instead of 7.0 like they had originally planned, I feel like Zodiark was originally going to be our end boss for 6.0. And that's why it feels so kind of just rushed, because Zodiark really feels like the halfway point in the MSQ,
Yeah.
even though it's not.
The tone of the game completely changes after Zodiark.
Yep.
Right, yeah, like, it just goes from like, oh, you have the dinner scene, the Garlemald chase, you go to the moon, shit's going down, you kill Zodiark, and now suddenly bunnies. And it's
Yeah,
like
because like
huge tonal shift.
like the spectacle of the Zodiark fight, you know, going into it and the way it ends really feels like something you would have at the end of an expansion. Which I don't mind that kind of
And
storytelling, obviously, in the middle, but
Every time I listen to the music, I'm like, this is final expansion boss music.
Mm-hmm.
It is, and
I
that's
agree.
appropriate,
And
though.
And they used it in the trailer too, which they usually do for final bosses.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that gambit, the scene itself, like that gambit in this game is the bridge that allows them to complete the story before any patch content.
Right.
Yeah.
It also, again, like you said earlier, it felt like it fell into the Stormblood trap, where they had, you know, an expansion and a half worth of material, and they condensed it into one expansion instead of making two expansions for it.
For the most part, the pacing was incredible, though. I really enjoyed
No,
it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, despite
will
that
say-
trap, like, they still managed to execute it pretty good.
I will say one of the
Don't really
reasons
agree.
I have so much of a problem with the Loperates is just the tone had been so serious up to that point, and then, you know, you get this mysterious female voice talking, and you see the world, like, getting all warped, and then suddenly it's happy, funny bunny time? Like, no. Like, just... I would have preferred to go straight into the dark, the world is ending crap instead of having a comedic relief section. I know some people need the comedic relief crap before everything just goes to shit, but for me it was just massive whiplash.
Arden, I believe we had that conversation when I was progressing Garlemald. Do you remember when we talked about, like, depression and how things really impact certain types of people? And
Yes.
so the relief aspect may have been for that community of folks.
I
that
mean,
had
I
so much
don't,
darkness.
yeah, I don't fault people needing a break, like, but I feel like they could have maybe spaced out the part between Zodiark is dead and Loperates a bit more, like, eased us into that break and maybe made it a less jarring.
Yeah,
I have
agreed.
to say, though, that yes, like it feels like a strange breather, but for me, who I was kind of, I don't really like this because, yeah, I didn't trust the Loperates too much, especially after hearing the female voice, which at the time we don't know what the hell is, and was like,
Yeah, a lot of people thought that was Heidelin.
yeah, I mean,
Which
yes,
is
but
funny.
but at the same, yeah, fair. It was not her, but at the same time, that was me finding out that the moon was an arc meant to get the people out of Etheris to another world, and I was like imploding. My mind was imploding by that, and which didn't help. And and aside that, I was it was like. When I was thinking, it was Thancred with who asked the Watcher and the Loperates, "Hey, if the source is devoured, consumed by the final days, what happens to the shards?" And they are basically like, "Who cares about the shards?" And I was like, "Okay."
Oh yeah, the shards are fucked, but you guys are fine. Anyway.
Go ahead.
There's something I wanted to touch on. A bit ago in chat, Tarkia said, I feel like Zodiark made some sense where it was placed, since it was basically Fandaniel's end goal to revive him. Story-wise, I absolutely agree. Like, the things needed to follow logically. Zodiark's death prompted the final days. I just feel like condensing that into the first third of an expansion was really awkward to me, pacing-wise. It just felt like we're in hurry up and
Yeah. The other part of that for me too was that, in contrast to actually being able to hold a conversation with Heidel and Vana, I don't feel like we ever actually got to talk to Zodiark other than, like, in terms of Elidibus in Shadowbringers, and because
Yeah.
Elidibus was gone, we were talking to Fandaniel instead, which was not exactly what was intended for
And we
Zodiark.
did speak with a few shades, but that's not really the same as speaking with
Yeah,
a more
like-
unified
Mhm.
consciousness.
I feel like the Shades were their attempt to try and convey what Zodiark's intention was relative to Hydaelyn, but they weren't really able to totally get it across the same way as when we talked to Hydaelyn.
If there's one proxy of Zodiac that we talk through it, in that section and then before the trial, I would say that would be Heplodeus.
Yeah.
Which, if you think of it like that, it's interesting that he then also during that section says that he trusts us to take care of the future. So it's almost like Zodiark saying, "I trust you to do the right thing," kind of thing.
Yeah, the dialogue about so when Amon says like maybe this is the test and I'll be proven wrong is the vibe.
Mhm.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I totally agree with you on the Zodiark thing. It felt awkward to me going through the first trial, and we're supposed to be facing the big bad of the whole arc. And so my mind immediately went to, okay, well now we're facing Zodiark. Will Hydaelyn be our final trial? Because this seems strange to me. And
Yeah.
the whole Fandaniel thing seemed rushed too
It was.
to me. So the pacing just kind of went from, oh, this is nice to, okay.
There was something I
Yeah.
really appreciated about the pacing in the Garlemald section, which is we're running around, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're dealing with these people, we're doing that. And then Fandaniel's like, finally, I had to do so much to keep you guys busy to save some time on my plan. And I was like, you bastard.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why we gave out all those radios.
Because
I
it just
remember.
felt like so much was thrown at us all at once, with the brands and the Watcher's Palace. We barely got to meet the Watcher before he's like, go take care of this.
Yeah. So that whole section had a pacing problem.
Mm-hmm. I'm hoping we get more with the Watcher since he's just sort of chilling in the palace right now.
Oh, touching on what Ayumi said about Fandaniel and the delay, I really like that after the Tower of Zot, the conversation between him and Xenos is like, yeah, so it's fine if they keep going after towers, but if they base us, we need to rush. So Xenos is like, yeah, they're definitely coming, so
Yeah.
That was good.
you might want to do some shit, because...
I agree with Tarkia in chat. It went from the Supreme Lord of Darkness to a primal program to protect the planet with no real malice. Exactly. They went over this kind of
Same with
10-year
Hydaelyn.
arc that kind of painted Zodiark as a big bad, especially in Shadowbringers, too. As there was a big focus on both the Ascians and their former story. And so we have all these expectations going into Endwalker, and now we just take care of him in an 83 trial.
So I will say that Zodiark in ARR was kind of painted as these people are doing these horrible things because Zodiark wants them to do it. And then it kind of turned into, no, we're doing this for Zodiark so we can get him back because he saved our world. And I thought that was kind of an interesting shift that wasn't so much retcon, but they kind of changed the perception of it as time went on.
In ARR, we're ignorant and not stupid. We just don't know anything.
To be
I mean,
fair,
that's
it's
the
not
whole
that
game.
it's not really that they want Zodiark because he is Zodiark. They want Zodiark because there's people inside of Zodiark.
That too.
It's like Soylent Green.
True.
There's also the issue, though, of... I mean, this is
Someone
like
got it.
This is, again, like a nitpick. Even to the end, when we're just before going into Elpis and we're speaking with Elidibus, he still says Lord Zodiark. There's, thousands to millions of souls in that thing, and he was piloting the robot. Where's the Lord here? So there is
Yeah,
an
it is a
issue
little
with
weird.
that perspective that they kind of shoehorned. Whatever.
I
the
mean,
right word
I
is.
have I have issue with the whole Lord Zodiac terminology because of the what appears to be retconning of Shadowbringers lore regarding the Zodiac tempering that happened.
Retconning.
I'm upset about that. I'm very upset about that. You don't say, hey, this is the reason they're doing it, and then haha, just kidding, actually. Into next door expansions too.
Right.
Yeah, Endwalker did a lot of retconning, which is for the better and the worse, I think.
Yeah, some retcons were good, some others were decidedly not.
The tempering thing, I think, is addressable, right? Because we do get the confirmation that that dying gives your memories back. Like, we got that.
I think the tempering thing is explainable because the bunnies don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Fair, but also like just going back to Shadowbringers for a moment, with Hades and the Remember Us, you know, it's totally you can totally reconcile them being tempered at the point of summoning with gaining their memories when they die, and kind of being, you know, even at the end of this expansion, he's lamenting what kind of a fool he feels like with only getting his memories back here at the very end. Like, oh, okay, so all that shit that I did do that I remember, got it. What an idiot I was for 10k years. I don't want to live anymore.
That's our Hades.
See you later.
No.
I'll be reborn, thanks. Thanks, bye.
So
one has to think if in Shadowbringers, because we start the thing with the Porxies in 5.1, if the Kairos thing was something that kind of equated to tempering, if we had thought about tempering and the Sin Eater infected before, we may have actually not needed to dunk Hades into the live stream, but
Yeah, but the argument was that he wasn't even really tempered, and so it becomes moot.
No, but if like Hythlodeus says that this Kairos, it manipulates memories by blasts of ether, which is basically the same principle for tempering in a sense, then that's actually rather the same explanation theory that Skorak Montichain gives us in the Studium.
Right, but I mean more like as far as his actions being based on whether or not he was tempered opposed to whether or not he had his memories. So I agree that the Blast of Aether kind of paints over that section of his memory, but it didn't really control what he was doing. He was just like, yeah, I like Zodiark because we summoned him and he saved our world. So I do want to point out, Tenebrae brought up an interesting thing in the chat where maybe Zodiark didn't have a consciousness by Endwalker or personality. He was just an unfinished shell. And we do learn that he's just a creature of pure instinct after Elidibus removed himself and Hydaelyn kind of stuck him in that hole.
That's so odd to me too, because as Emmet Selk describes it in Raktika, and they fought. I mean, I guess you can fight on instinct, but I mean, maybe that's why he didn't win, because
he was missing something, and it was Elidibus.
Yeah, he didn't have he was a car without a driver, basically.
I'd like to challenge that a little bit. If you don't mind correcting me afterwards, that's fine. Oh, go ahead, Meowth.
No, the thing is regarding Emmet Selk's narration in Raktika, I think we discussed this when it comes to Vena's remembrance of the final days, that because it contradicts both Emmet Selk's and Anamnesis and Ider's records of how things happen. So my two theories were either that Vena's memory is mostly symbolic, especially by the end, when she's dealing with the ancients, and or that our time travel did alter what previously had been the events. So I'm not sure, because Final Fantasy does love the symbolism, but time travel can be difficult.
It's
Don't
messy.
mention time travel
Oh
in
my
front of
God.
me.
We're gonna have to talk.
So
I don't know what to
Oh, I
tell you.
mean,
We're
yeah.
gonna have to talk about time travel. at
Before
some
we
We're
go
point.
gonna have
ahead,
to
can
talk
I-
about like it's such a big part of this expansion. We're gonna have to talk about it.
Okay, so here, let me go into my tangent about time travel.
Here we go.
So I hate time travel because I've played games before that have time travel mechanics into it. They have time travel lore into it, and they may be easy to understand maybe during the first segment of the game, the first few hours of the game. Then, as you introduce more and more plot points into that and have them try and tie back into that first segment of the lore, it gets messier and messier. Then they create a second game, a second sequel. They try and bring up the second point that, oh, the first game has lore that relates to the time travel thing again. Then you have to create this kind of bullet point that, oh, I need to connect this back to here, I need to connect this back to here. Suddenly you're retconning things over and over, and now the story becomes a convoluted mess. I can make an example of that. Kingdom Hearts. Another example of that. Fire Emblem. And what I mean by this is when we go back to Elpis, we have a journey back in time. We already know kind of the history behind not Kingdom Hearts. We already know the history behind what the ancients did in that. We went through the story of Elpis and everything. But what I took issue with was using the Crystal Tower and Elidibus to go back in time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it just seemed half-assed to me.
It was very convenient, and I have a rant after you're done.
It's fine.
Before we get too far ahead, I want to issue my challenge to the Zodiark as a creature of instinct thing that came up just a second ago.
Do it.
When we are
Do it, because I'm going to continue.
when we are beginning the trial, the set piece is about Fandaniel challenging the thousands of souls that are inside of Zodiark who all want to save the world. So it's as if he's locked away, and by breaking the seals, those souls are reawakened. I don't think he was a creature of anything before we broke the seals. And if it's instinct, it's the thousands of instincts to save the planet. But they seem to have, like, they're conversing, and he has to fight their wills to take full control. So
We are the martyr.
exactly.
I have
So that's my
I have
challenge,
a
if
minor
you have anything
gripe.
on that.
I have a minor gripe
Okay.
with the whole thing. How the ever-loving fuck did Fandaniel overpower that many souls to take over Zodiac?
Even as an Asian, I still don't really know how
How
he
dare
did
you
that.
interject in
I
my
think that
rant?
I think he was intended. I think that he, capital H-E, Zodiark, was intended to have a driver, and while the vehicle balked a little at the driver that it got, in the
Pushed it
end
out
it
to
was
sea.
a vehicle.
That
Yeah,
and there's
maybe.
there would for all the instance in Garlemald with body swapping, body surfing thing that it seemingly amounts to nothing. That's the mind jack technology, and he's Ammon. So when it comes to overpowering and body surfing, who's to say that Ammon doesn't know how to hijack an incomplete Zodiark?
This is the same person who resurrected a long dead emperor, and
Mm-hmm.
like this
Stuck a
is
bullshit
not.
on a dude.
I do like it as much as Fandaniel got the short end of the stick. I do enjoy how the retcon reincorporates a much deeper character into him. Like I enjoy that, even though it seems like the Fandaniel of the end of Shadowbringers got very little screen time in development. At least there was something that they could fit him into that gave a lot more. And that's before we even go to Elpis. It's really cool. And the idea of having your memories restored, but because they're not your biological current memories, you don't really identify with them. I like that as well.
Mm-hmm. So, is it time? I think it's time. So I want to address.
I was going to continue, but go ahead.
I want to address my thoughts on the time travel, and it actually came up in chat. Tenebrae said it, where they said the word closed loop. And I've seen a lot of people call what happened in Elpis a closed loop. It's not. And the reason it's not is because we've already established that time travel in 14 creates a separate timeline. So closed loops only occur when a timeline is not alterable. And we've established that the timeline is alterable, and it's mutually exclusive. Either the timeline is alterable or it isn't. And we established that it is. Which means that when we went back to Elpis, there is a separate timeline where we never did that. And I'm really curious what happened in that timeline.
I think they were trying to describe this particular time travel as it's non-linear. I don't remember the name. We were talking about the different kinds of time travels.
Non-linear.
I'm blanking on the name now. The one where your timeline doesn't follow the same timeline as time itself. Right. Your personal timeline bops back and forth, but that's part of the overarching timeline, and it's everyone.
Isn't this like the sacred timeline concept a little bit?
Yeah, I hate that actually.
I know, but it's an ad we get all the time.
Also, that discussion spawned me calling the Alexander loop, quote unquote, a roller coaster, because it doesn't actually go right on top itself; it just goes really close.
That could be a timeline in which we travel to the past to Elpis, and there's a straight timeline in which we never actually return to present Theris.
Correct.
This whole thing makes me wonder about Azim, if they were ever able to figure out that we visited Elpis and were able to track our origin point in Propulon, and because they're us, they could fit through the hole that we left, that Elidibus created for us. They could do what we did in reverse.
I have thoughts about Azim, but I'm not going to go into it because we're not talking about pandemonium stuff. But I do have a theory about what's going on, and I know Bonnie or Arden, you know what it is. But
I have a feeling I know what it is now too.
Yeah. Ayumi, do you remember what you were talking about? I'm really sorry.
No, you guys can continue.
Okay.
I personally, in the time travel aspect, my most field of expertise is Final Fantasy 13 too. But aside from certain points of key points, it works differently, because in 13.2, the aim is precisely to address the time paradoxes caused by time travel, and it's different. It's a different approach. So
we have a lot of buffering issues.
We do. Visual buffering, or
oh.
And so
chat, let me know.
It may be Twitch, because I wasn't able to watch like Pyro's last couple streams at all. Because
we do have YouTube simulcast. If people are struggling too much, you can try switching.
Yeah. Twitch has a habit of twitching.
Yeah, if Twitch is twitching, then hop over to YouTube's.
Like, I feel like Endwalker balanced fairly well the. Well, I'm going to quote Hythlodeus here, but it balanced fairly well the gravity moment, the serious dark moments with the levity moments to counterbalance the pathos, as he put it. But because yes, we have Garlemald after a fairly light sorry, how do you call it? Levity, I guess.
Lighthearted.
Yeah. In Charlayan, the conclusion of the Tower of Thoth, and Charlayan, the introduction of the Ilsebardian contingent, and then we got to Garlemald, and then we got, I think, Garlemald, Babel, and Marlamentorum for Sport all works as this bundle of what the fuck. And then we go to the Loperids with, more levity, and then we got straight out kicked into the final days in Thavner round 2, and that's like, oh well. And then we go back to Elpis, which at the first it seems like a fairly peaceful place, but at the same time your mind is just is short circuiting. Like, what? So I wouldn't even though the first parts of Elpis are actually really calm, quiet, and everything, they're not exactly levitating.
There was no calm or quiet. I was like crying and screaming when that happened. Nothing calm and quiet about that.
And
I was just giggling a lot, like way too much. Like anytime anyone opened their mouth to speak, I just started giggling.
And then after Elpis and the final segments of Elpis were thrown back into Garla mode with the final days, and then comes Labyrinthos, which is not precisely the best moment to throw levity at us, but fair. I mean, that part of Labyrinthos at least had the scene with Urianger and Mumbrida's parents with Destroy Me. I'll say, and then the ending, and you know that. So I think it was fairly balanced. Perhaps not working for everyone, but I think objectively it wasn't. It was fairly well structured. Objectively, of course, to each their tastes. I
I'll
can't
give you
speak.
the majority. The majority was well constructed, and then there's these little pitfalls.
Yeah,
But that's gonna happen in any story. That's not like, oh, it's
sorry,
such a bad
today.
story.
Sorry, I spent like a month without speaking English, and I feel like I'm munching a crab.
You're doing great as far as our receiving of your voice goes. It's perfect.
I will say someone brought up Elidibus in the chat, and one thing I think is interesting about Elidibus is we've established that he can kind of see the multiple timelines, where at the end of Shadowbringers he said the flow of history has become muddied, and before he sends us back to Elpis he says that, you know, I saw you there but I didn't. And so he's got the memories of both timelines happening, and I think that's really interesting, and that's another thing that makes me think that, you know, the timeline split because he has both memories of us being there and memories of us not being there.
You know, it's funny. When I first saw that, the second one, the I saw you there but I didn't, I was just like, oh, that's just in case they don't do the raids. But with the other one, you won me over with that. The timeline has become muddied. I wonder if, much like how Estinian being possessed by Nidhogg, if him being the heart of this primal has altered him in certain ways, you know?
I mean, being a primal himself, I would not be surprised.
Exactly.
The timeline becoming muddied and tangled, it gives me so many Final Fantasy 13-2 vibes, and I know how it ends, and that's that's not the best. I'm excited, but at the same time, with Dynamis being essentially chaos, I'm like, yeah, that's a new whole can of worms that, yeah.
Oh, we have so many videos coming. I can't wait to make the Dynamis video. It's going to be so awesome.
I'm going to switch scenes really quick.
But my field of flowers.
The audio group over still. That's why you gave us the warning.
There we go.
Huzzah!
You guys didn't hear that, but basically, Meowth noticed that I didn't change my Tonberry face. Votes in chat. Who thinks that Fowlin's chibi is the most Tonberry of all of them?
Those were your words. I tried to. I actually fulfill my end of the deal, and you forgot to put your new face into this, and I'm taking this personally.
Oh,
she's offended.
She should be offended. I'm a jerk. I'm a big old jerk. Oh no, Zoelia says Tonberries have red eyes, don't they? Hey, listen.
Meowth, get on it. So, so who here has seen the moon in Elpis? I just noticed it today.
It's a
I want to talk
graphical
about
bug.
this.
It's a
Yeah,
graphical bug.
It's a graphic bug, but I saw it and I was like, what the fuck is
Well,
that?
Understandably.
Yup.
Because
You're not supposed to be
the
there.
moon didn't exist before the Sundering.
Yeah,
Because
maybe they
Eidolon
messed
made it. They established that in the intro to Marlar and Lamentorum. And I saw the moon and I was like, the fuck is going on?
Excuse.
Yes.
Kapalaka says, "Ha, my cosplay photo was accurate after all." So there, Cobra. Got him.
Now,
Little bit of,
now that
stimulation here.
we're speaking about the moon getting sundered from to another world, that gives me that makes me think of our theories. I shouldn't be surprised by Arden's antics by now, but I'm still surprised.
The outfit change? Yeah, I don't know.
I was going to say, fuck, I lost my place. Yeah, the thing with the shards, and the post 6.0 quest that some of us, well, not me, because I'm not gatherer bar crafter, but some of you have been doing, and the implications.
Poor Neela. The unused lookout point is hurting my soul.
It's just looking at me like, why don't you go to me and type /lookout? And I'm like, I can't.
Just literally get on any 90 class and do it.
Nope.
Do it on the lower class. Get some
Yeah,
experience.
that's what I'm gonna do.
Do it now.
It looks like my
Yeah,
hat.
go
My
learn
hat
about-
is in my bag. I might
Bless
need
you
to
for
leave.
taking care of my sensibilities.
Go learn about Metabasis Talassi.
Okay. Yeah.
I also love the little like information bits on the lookouts once you get them.
Oh, they're serious
Yeah.
business. They're all great.
It's great.
Oh, I haven't seen those.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you gotta check them out.
All right. You guys have your
Hey.
shoe bills. I'm rocking my MIDI.
Oh, wow.
So apparently the shoe bills may be Asim's familiar because they share the same amount of thoughts in their head that Asim does.
Literally nothing.
That's funny. I still remain with my previous theory, but that's funny.
That's really funny.
I'm just imagining Hades doing breathing exercises when someone tries to read his familiar's mind. He's like, nope, no thoughts, head empty.
So what you're saying is slow think, no thoughts is actually Asm.
Slow think, no thoughts. That's so rude. That is so rude.
I don't know. We got at least one thought, I think. I'm looking at you, Arden. With love.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a thought. Oh, boy.
THOT.
Well, we got derailed, but you're here for that, right,
A
guys?
little bit. Hopefully. You guys rock for putting up with us. Where were we? Something spoilers.
We were talking about Elpis
Yes.
and time stuff, and then
I will say that Elpis just, it sucked all the air out of the expansion for me.
really,
It like everything before Elpis, like I remember it, but it's kind of like that's over there, and here I have Elpis right in front of me, and I'm like, I'm gonna think about this.
oh, I see what you mean. I thought
It
you
kinda
meant-
does
I
have
thought
that
you meant
feeling
it
to
ruined
it.
the expansion.
No.
Elpis
kind
was
of
the start of the expansion,
It's the
don't
start.
yes,
worry.
that's how it
Yeah.
feels
It's
like.
like two different games, right? Garlemald
Yes.
and then Elpis to the end.
And,
Elpis
like,
is my
Garlemald through
Elpis-
Zodiark and then Elpis to the end. Those are the two.
Like,
plots.
I'm gonna get skewered for this, but like the return to Thavnir, the second part of Thavnir, just feels like a blur to me because Elpis was right next to it, and I was like, I barely remember anything after the moon and before Elpis.
Yeah, the world didn't feel like it was ending as hard as it should have been, eh?
No, it was just like this is happening to Thavnir.
We're gonna
That
piece out
sucks
to
for
the
them.
past where it doesn't affect anything for like 5-6 hours.
And
Yeah.
that is one thing that I feel a little bit weird about with Thavnir 2 onward is it really doesn't feel like we had an apocalypse.
No. Even though they tried to showcase that this was happening in like Ishgard and other places, like we didn't really see the impact of that, and we didn't really hear about the impact of it. And so it's just kind of like, this happened in Thavnir. This guy got his kid crushed in front of him. It was sad. The baby happened. And then it was just kind of like, and here we go to Elpis. Yay!
Yeah, like even though they were
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, hey, kids aren't safe either, which was really surprising to me. I was like,
very happy they made that choice.
The baby
though.
happened, yeah.
yeah. But then everything after that should be, you know, death and doom and whatever, isn't very death and doom.
Yeah.
It
For
really
me,
did feel like. You go ahead.
Oh, okay. For me, it was hard for me to enjoy Elpis, especially at first, because anyone who knows me well knows that I've basically kind of shipped with Elidibus since 5.0, and then in 5.2 they're like, what if we change his personality? And then in 5.3 they're like, what if we fridged him? I'm like, he'll be back, he'll get his time, and then they're like, yeah, he's back, he gets to be your fuel source. So it really soured the whole thing. I'm glad that I had to leave off shortly into Elpis, because I would not have been able to enjoy it otherwise.
I was very upset with how Elidibus just like, yeah, I'm just a fuel source thing. Like, even though I very much enjoyed Elpis, I did have that tinge of like, well, I get to have all this wonderful fun with like all these other characters, but Elidibus just gets to be dead now, and it's like, oh, that sucks.
It does suck. Although
Is
it
Kapalaka asking how the ancients reproduce or how the creations reproduce?
It's the same way, they bang.
So they actually do explain that in the game
it's
at
in
the
the-
Chthonic Horns.
Yeah.
It was
that-
in the Chthonic Horns, that's right too. I was
Yeah,
gonna say in the
where-
short story, but I forgot about that.
No,
Well,
the
I
Chthonic
was
Horns.
gonna also point out that someone a couple years ago straight up asked Yoshi P, how do ancients reproduce? And his actual answer was just like, he started laughing and it was like, do we really have to have the talk right now?
I mean, if you just browse on Twitter for long enough, you'll find out.
But is it canon, Yoshi?
They're just what we need to ask them next time for FanFest is, okay, so we've established this fact, but what about with transformation magic in the mix? Like, does that play any part in it?
How do we
That's an important
reproduce?
question too that he probably will not be able to answer.
Have you seen them without their robes on? Winky face.
Oh, don't we have one of those? Oh yeah, we do. There was a thing that happened before the expansion dropped. Arden, was that your fault?
What?
Maybe, I don't know.
No,
I
What are we
blame
talking
you.
about?
Well,
I'm blaming you.
It was like someone in an ancient robe, but they were wearing some kink underneath. It wasn't full 18 plus. It was like,
Oh yeah, I've seen that about.
I want to
Yeah.
say that was my friend Orlay who did that.
yeah, that must be.
I
Made
think
that
so.
reference.
I have
She
to-
was like, steal their look, basically, and it was like a bunch of lingerie under their robe.
That's right.
So
Thighs
it
and
fits.
garter
It
belts
fits
and
with the
shit.
shadowless caster healer tights.
Mhm.
They make that idea work.
I do want to add one thing to the Elidibus conversation, which I think was interesting, was we have an expansion that is focused on despair and hope.
Yes.
And we kill Zodiark, we go see Elidibus, and Elidibus is like, I have nothing left for me in this world. Despair. Here,
Yeah.
let me just use my essence to fuel your journey. Bye! And I just thought that was very contrary to what the theme was trying to be.
It was also
definitely
contrary to what he
undermined
was
the theme.
before.
It
It was-
undermined the theme, it undermined him, and as a shipper, having the person I ship with being like, there's nothing for me, I'm like, motherfucker, I'm right here. That felt fucking
Pretty much.
awful. That
Yes, it
really,
did.
that hurt.
Yeah, it did. And I mean, he's literally like 5.3 kind of nailed it, especially. But like, Elidibus really is in a lot of ways the embodiment of hope in the same way that Zodiark was supposed to be as well.
Yes. And it was
So
just
having
very...
him have zero hope.
Grant me strength.
So having him like not have any hope at that moment in an expansion that's also about hope is just like
bizarre.
It's
I
very
mean-
weird.
I could challenge this
I
a little
mean,
bit myself
at the
as
same
well.
time, he was kind of freezing inside the tower, so
Yeah.
it's kind of
Whose
Uh,
fault was that? Goodness.
yeah.
And all we can do is
I'm
offer
just
a
sitting here.
half-hearted.
We had the control. We could have taken him out, but since he didn't know that or he didn't believe we would ever do it, he had no choice. It's fucked
And
up,
we just
man.
all we get is like a half-hearted apology, and he's like, "No,
Yeah.
I don't want your pity." I'm like, "No, you do want my pity because I feel bad."
If you don't want my pity, how about my someone bonking?
unlike Neela, though, that sting wore off very quickly when I got to Elpis, and then it was like, oh, hi, person I ship with more than any other, and also best bud.
Yeah.
And I just absolutely lost it. And I was in chat, like voice chat with my partners at the time, and I was like an inconsolable screaming mess when it happened.
I want to address
real quick. Oh, go ahead.
I want to address something Capeleka said in chat.
That's
I don't
what I was
get
going to
why
address.
Eminent Hitlo had to take their masks off when everybody else had theirs on inside Elpis, and they explained that it's so that they can see broadly in case any of the creatures trying to attack them.
Yeah.
But I think it has a lot more to do with the fact that only beautiful people are allowed to reveal their faces inside Elpis.
Every
funny.
single ancient in there was gorgeous.
No, every
Including
ancient was
Hermes.
gorgeous.
They already
I looked
In
at all of
seriousness,
them.
no. They actually comment that they would also be wearing their cowls up, except everybody has to have those down because you need the peripheral vision to know that this
Yep.
thing is coming up on you to eat you. But
Yeah.
when you're not used to it, when you don't work there, they say take your mask off as well.
Yeah,
It's a safety
visitors
issue.
must take their masks off.
And there
All
were a
visitors.
few people.
Yeah, you'll see
in
a bunch-
Elpis.
You can actually tell who's working there because you'll see they have their masks on. Hades,
Right.
Hermes has his mask on. The majority of the time we're in there, he takes it off at one point.
Well,
for
I mean, most of the
a moment.
NPCs in there have their masks on.
Yeah.
No, it's about half and half.
There were a few that didn't have theirs
I went
on.
through and took pictures of
Like-
every single NPC in there. It was closer
As
to half.
did I. As did I. And you see them more so around Populon and Agnorissus, but there are a few like all over the place.
Okay,
that don't have
I will be honest. I have not been able to deep dive Elpis because I can't handle it. I have not touched a single side quest in there yet, just because I want to be able to really like dive in and enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. That's
I
what I
will
waited
say-
to do it.
As much as I loved Elpis, there was one very major painful part of it, aside from the obvious MSQ stuff. And that was trying to read off all the fucking names in the zone, because it's all Greek to me.
It literally is Greek to me.
Very nice.
I'm slowly starting to get used to naming stuff here, but it's a bit of a tongue twister.
I
like
have to apologize.
Crystalli.
I have to apologize because I spent like 2 years calling. I spent like 2 years saying Hythlodeus, and it's Hythlodeus, and I'm really, really, really sorry.
No, it's fine.
I'm just
we don't,
excited that I got it right. We didn't know how to
Period.
pronounce it.
We
for
never
the
know
longest
until
time,
it's
so we're
voice
guessing.
acted, and then that's canon.
Yeah.
So
Like Azim, and that one's a hard one. But we got to hear that name a few times in story, and it was actually Azim. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not Azim, it's Azim.
It
Yeah,
felt good
Azim.
hearing
Oh,
Hades
Azim.
say it.
Felt
Like
good
some
or weird?
some
I didn't hear
words,
that.
some words and pronunciation because I'm used to certain pronunciation myself. Asam was hardly I was actually rather sure that was how it was pronounced, but I could have been wrong anyways. But the problem with I should have guessed that it was Hythlodeus instead of Hythlodeus, just because how it's Romanized Latinized the name
And how in Greek is
in
pronounced.
Spanish and Latin,
Mhm.
but I don't know what my brain just made a weird thing, and it's like.
I guess walking back the discussion a little bit, what was everyone's reactions to seeing Vana on the boat to Charlian at the start of the MSQ?
You
I
bitch.
did
Like fuck
I
you.
did a kitty hiss, like literally. I just hissed like a cat.
I know what your game is, and I'm not going to play it anymore.
And
Yeah.
when she said about the confluence, I was like, "The fuck are you talking about?" Which
Yeah,
makes sense
really.
later, of course.
Yeah, but like in the moment, it was like, what are you? What?
Kapalaka says, "Why are you wearing a bag? You're so pretty." They're right.
I've never
Me
minded.
and all the ancients. Why are you wearing bags? You're all so pretty.
I have to say that was an amusing. Until I got to Novena, and as you know, I disagree with her methods, and I think it could have been different. But I'm not going to judge because she's essentially the same as Hades.
Don't get me
Uh,
started.
I have something to say about
All
that.
right, you know what? Let's do
I'm-
it. Let's talk about
Let
Vana.
me
All right, here
Oh
we go.
no.
Let me finish, please.
Yeah, let her finish.
I was going to say that the first time, until Elpis, every time Hydola and Barbara appear, I was like, I know where you come from. I don't trust you. And then there was this moment in Labyrinthus. Then she takes over Kryl, and I was like, what the? get out! Get the fuck out of Kryle's body, like, now! This is creepy! And then she makes the comment of furring Nympphilia's soul to the from the first to the source, and then she says, and another one. I was like,
She's
what?
like, and a friend, but that depends on you. And I'm just like,
And I
did
was
she
like,
what?
What did you do to Hades?
Yeah, that
Speak!
I was like, did you steal my husband and stick him on ice, like as a marketing chip or something? Because I'm gonna rip your head off if you did.
Yeah. So what do you mean Argos isn't Minfilia? Come on.
You're
Argos
sure?
is still
Are you
Minfilia.
sure that's not Minfilia's persona? Come on.
Oh!
Oh
Val
wow.
hasn't seen
Speaking
the thing. I have to find the
Personas.
thing.
Speaking of personas, what's up with sundering people suddenly giving them all these cool animal characteristics?
Yeah,
Yeah.
including Vieira? Question mark. Vieira
funny.
being like,
She
oh,
just wanted
fan of
pets.
bunnies.
We're literally her pets, guys.
So Zombie
That's
on
hot.
YouTube says they want to know more about
Mila,
Osmond.
please don't talk about pets because that's giving me
Hold on,
that's
hold on,
giving
hold on,
me
hold on.
major
Shush.
Fauci vibes.
So
Shush.
Zombies and Netta said they want to know more about Ozem on YouTube. I think that would be better covered at when we do Pandemonium.
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna be
Yeah.
relevant. So
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
will
Yeah.
get to it, but probably not today.
Right. It'll be more Pandemonium related.
Yeah, hopefully next week we can discuss Pandemonium, but that's going to depend on if Fao is able to do Pandemonium
Oh,
before
believe
next
me,
Sunday.
it'll be done today.
Okay.
It's so
Okay.
good. You have to do
It'll
it.
be
It's
done
worth
today
it.
for sure. And we
And
can talk about it in
since
Discord, too.
since the Argos and Minfilia thing was brought up, Fao, I have something to show you. I'll put it in live chat.
Okay.
Can we just post it in the stream chat too?
Oh, no.
Yeah,
'Cause
I'll-
if it's what I think it is, it needs to
Yeah,
be.
I don't know the source on this because it was just sent to me like this. But
Yes!
Should I show it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Please.
yeah, go ahead and show it on.
What's
Sure
wrong
is.
with you,
Oh
guys?
God.
Y'all are awful.
Oh, that image.
It's terrible. It's great.
That image is rough.
All right, I'll show it in a second, but before I switch scenes, I just want to say, yeah, it's ridiculous. Okay,
But
first
not
death of
inside
the season,
Jesus.
guys. First death of the season.
I don't know. She died a little earlier when I was being lewd.
All right, well, let me just go ahead and
Good.
show everybody. You can keep talking. I'll get the file.
I think, yeah,
I mean,
left
be
the
wrong.
room.
Can we, though?
Be laughing because it just gets funnier the longer you look at
Oh
it.
gosh.
Y'all are the worst.
It's true. Hey, look, that guy's hair looks like Pashtarat. Every time I see him, I'm like, Pashi, is it you?
I know. Yes, my boy.
I miss you.
I miss my boy Pasteron. I want to see him in the other. I want to
Really
see.
hope to get a little more hint to him, and
We need the remaining 5. We need the remaining 5 so badly.
it's true.
There you go. All right, let me put it up.
Seat of Gremlin, Asm.
Yes, he's the gremlin.
There you go.
It only gets more true.
I can
Yes,
just imagine
Azim, that motherfucker.
Azem and Vana hanging out, eating Doritos, slamming Mountain Dew.
There we go. So we're gonna let them vibe on this picture for a little bit while I say a couple things. I remember we had a discussion in Shadowbringers, and I was originally on the fence of sundering causes the races, and you all convinced me that
Yeah, I was wrong.
it's interesting.
It is. It's weird. It doesn't make sense to me.
I don't think it's meant to make sense, somehow.
I don't like that.
I
I
know.
like things that make sense.
Well, the idea, like, it was part
It's alright.
of
That's why I'm
Varys'
rewriting everything.
Varys' conversation during the meeting in Shadowbringers, right? Like, and even the trailer, like, no longer shall we be divided by the conflict born of the dissension of our differences, right? The idea that sundering made everyone unequal. But
Yeah,
but
it's pretty fucky actually.
it is pretty fucky. I mean, there's
I really
obviously power
feel like
disparate.
they messed up by doing it this way. Like you could have told the narrative in a more strong way, and you missed out.
Yes, yeah, there is some of that.
Anyway, I have lots of opinions.
No,
Maybe they avoided it because they didn't want to paint Vana in that direction. I don't know.
They,
Well-
instead, they gave her some kind of like pet little cute, like Sundered Life is her little pets thing
Well,
going on.
in
Yeah.
fairness,
Mhm.
nobody had ever sundered the star before. So if we have cat girls now, I mean,
I'm
it
just,
is what it
I
is,
mean,
alright?
okay, you make a valid point. Bunny boys are a strong argument for sundering.
Yes.
Yeah,
True.
we're all her little intelleckies.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, kill
Oh
me.
God, we can talk
Well,
about
we are much
Medion
more
later.
capable of wielding Dynamis now.
Actually, this is a good opportunity to talk about that. We said we were going to take a good amount of time on Elpis. I think it's fine. This might just be the Elpis podcast. How about how nobody has feelings here except freaking Hermes?
They have feelings. You
They
hear
have
one
them.
guy like
They
cursing up
do.
a storm.
Nobody has
It's just
dark
the average
feelings.
is pleasant.
The average is it's whatever.
There's
very
a side
flat.
quest where a guy is literally cursing and it's great.
I still have the feeling that it wasn't a matter of their inability to use Dynamis, it was a matter of them being ignorant of it and not having enough time to learn more about it.
I agree.
I'm betting they can't use it well and they can't understand it well because they can't use it well. But they're absolutely using
Right.
it. Like they limit. I was speaking, I think, with someone in YouTube chat earlier.
Yeah.
Hey,
And Catices
it's-
Hyperboreus, your trusts. If you go in with the ancients, use limit breaks.
They do.
You could
Yep.
make the argument that Hades and Elidibus have both also used Dynamis, even unknowingly, in
Oh,
the
for
context of Shadowbringers.
Yes.
And
For
Azem
sure.
probably did it as well, and that we have certainly done it via the limit breaks.
I made a joke that
Oh, yeah,
it
I
wasn't
think-
actually a limit break.
I don't
it
think
was a
it's that
limit
people
rake.
aren't having emotions. They may be less affected by their emotions because of their etheric density, or they may simply average out to generally happy and pleasant. Because,
Yeah.
like they
So-
said in Charlian, the flowers there were gray, and it's not because the dude there dropping off the box was stressed. It's because everyone around there is stressed. It comes up with an
Yeah.
average. It seems to be if you really stand near and focus, you can override the average, but as a general rule, it shows the average mood ring of the feeling of the area.
So,
So
you're saying it's
I
more
wanna-
likely that Hades was right. Everything was paradiesal back here, rather than they don't have feelings.
But
Obviously, nothing is
I think
perfect.
it's the thing is we have to draw a distinction between the feeling of ease and happiness and the concept of hope, because the concept of hope is closely tied to the concept of despair, and it comes basically under high duress or high well. Misfortune and such, and that's why in Ultima Thule the Elpis flowers are rainbow colored. They're all the spectrum of hope. Hope is all those emotions because it involves positive emotions and negative emotions. The white is like a feeling of if you would drawing a parallel with the elemental wheel, the white would be peace and tranquility, which is what the ancients mostly have. Which doesn't mean that they can have personal feelings, of course. Hermes, I think it was an extreme case, but that's because in fact we've only these are the only ancients we've met, and that's the only area of the world and Sunder we've seen. So I wouldn't say that this is conclusive to say whether the ancients of Nod have feelings. I personally, of course, they have feelings. They're clearly affected. The thing is, when it comes to Dynamis, being a mostly unknown thing, even for not just even for them, but for the Standard as well, it lies the key to harness its power and use it properly. And even them, like for example, we go into Ctisis Hyperborea with Hades, Vena, and Hythlodeus, and they all we're like under high stress narratively, because Hermes has taken Meteon and he's basically planning to allow for a disaster, and there's this feeling of rush that we've got to stop Hermes and Meteon, and so that's when their dynamics manifest. It's like going into the end of Endwalker. Dynamis manifests in like Xenos says, these fleeting moments. Because Xenos was using Dynamis too, and we were too. So it's like, and I think I'm rambling a bit, but I think it's how pressured you are determines if you can access the Dynamis or not. And the ancients, being mostly unpressured, they wouldn't have the need for the most part. But one has to wonder if after the final days, had Renan not freaked out, just so to speak, if the ancients would have learned to harness this Dynamis.
So I think they would have given enough time. One of the things that really made me raise an eyebrow was when they were talking about Dynamis, and it made me think back to the scene after Seed of Sacrifice, where Emmett Selk said, what Bothri was going to accomplish through bliss, you will achieve through despair, which means that Dynamis was actually a critical component of rejoinings. So I thought that was very, very interesting.
Yeah, Zoila says they specifically said they can't, and every single piece of evidence points to that being wrong. It's very weird. Either they messed up, and I have some issues with Dynamis as a force because I feel like
I agree.
they didn't think it through very well. They didn't plan it out, and they say things, but then they don't support that with evidence and demonstration.
Mhm.
I disagree.
I always go with what is actually happening.
I
myself.
disagree that they specifically said that they can't
did.
harness Dynamis.
Well, okay. They don't really know how. We know they can harvest Dynamis actually because Hermes created Medion.
All that Hermes said is
right
that
there.
ether. All that Hermes says is that ether by essence negates Dynamis. It's stronger, but doesn't say that the ancients cannot use Dynamis.
I've seen some people say that their quote-unquote proof for ancients being incapable of using Dynamis is later on in the MSQ when Hades says that they would have never gotten this far by their methods.
Right.
I think that's more of a societal thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I feel
I'd have to agree with that myself.
I took that as a societal thing.
I do want to address something that was said earlier as far as the society and happiness and hope. I feel like this is very much looking at an individualist versus collective culture. So the ancients had a very collectivist culture. They weren't so much focused on their individual experiences as the well-being of the star. And as long as the star was okay, it didn't really matter what they experienced. And it wasn't until the final days where they started really experiencing that individualistic despair. And after the Sundering, we have a very, very individualistic outlook. It's not so much focused on the well-being of the star. It's the well-being of my people, the well-being of my tribe versus the other tribes. And I just think that's a very interesting dichotomy between how the ancient world viewed things and how things are viewed after the Sundering. And it's the post-Sundering is very much how we view things in at least the Western cultures. In the East, it's a little more collectivist. But the ancients, I feel, took that to an extreme, and it really feeds into a lot of the Buddhist themes that underlie Endwalker, where, to live is to suffer, and without that suffering, life isn't really possible.
I have opinions on that as well.
Unmitigated.
I feel like. Wait, what'd you say?
Unmitigated bliss is bland, whereas unmitigated despair is awful.
For a moment, I thought you were quoting from the story I posted yesterday. The anime.
I actually was. I was actually a little bit.
Where I'm touched. I mean, it's very
paraphrasing,
true.
And I agree with you on that.
But it's true.
That's why I like that story that you wrote.
Would you like
Guys.
to?
I do think that I mean I don't know. I feel like they tried to make the ancients like human plus. Like very human at their core and self, just beset by much less issues and stronger society, a more collective society, basically. Which, I mean, I don't know many humans who, when they get a little bored, they're like, I'm bored of being happy, don't go and stir some shit. Look at Hades, look at Azem.
Azem, yes.
I don't see them running out of things to do.
There's
Or
plenty
people
to do in any
Looking
world.
for entertainment, and if I cannot find it, I will make it. And yes, you can read that trouble too.
And speaking of like just all the Elpis and Medion stuff, who else here when Medion started like freaking out initially and was like, it's all wrong, and you get the Japanese horror blacked out eyes thing going on, thought that she'd like contacted some eldritch entity?
Yeah,
I thought she'd
that
do
was my
something
first
bad.
thought. I thought that she had like that something was going on in the wider universe, and she had discovered it, and it was like,
it was
holy
disturbing.
shit.
That's what I thought.
Her reaction was so strong when it was revealed that no, she didn't encounter someone that was like murdering her or her sisters or doing something awful or sucking on her brains.
Well,
and it was just, hey, every society dies eventually. It felt so lackluster to me because her reaction was so strong, and I'm like, okay, yeah, we all live with that. It's not that big a deal.
So
yeah,
can I just posit something? I think perhaps that the eldritch horror she was meeting was actually her sisters, who had already gotten fucked up.
Yes, but how did they become like that from, I guess life dies?
Well, you take her very like childlike emotional demeanor, and she feels like her core aspect is entelechy, so like she is she's an emotional device. Like she will absorb.
She's unmitigated compassion without the ability to process.
She's an empath. That's the word.
She learns how to process. Like he says, she'll learn during her travels and stuff.
Unless it's so dark, and then
that might have been naive relative to universal despair.
Yeah, so
it ties with it. If you allow, it ties with, if you recall, the end of the Omega raids, when Omega wonders if I had a heart, would have been strong enough to go back home, and Sid tells Omega that no people who had feelings would be able to endure such a journey and what they had to witness. And then Tom and Walker, you put what is essentially an empath to traverse the great expanse and see the things Omega may have seen, but being a machine was prepared to not be affected by,
isn't able to be affected.
Destroyed Medium.
They didn't tell us a number. There's a bunch.
I bet we could count them.
No, the main story quest where we talked to the girl who watched him go off said hundreds of them.
Hundreds.
We counted.
We counted 18.
Based on Ultima Thule, we've counted 18 thus far.
Okay, so
but there were 100.
The point being, essentially, each one of them is feeling despair, and then you stack them, and there might be some sort of multiplicative effect rather than just additive.
So there's another thing that we're not discussing.
It's a collective consciousness.
Yeah, Medion was designed to learn and grow from what she experienced.
Right.
And most of them hadn't had the opportunity to do that. They were just sent out into space.
Assuming everything is kosher.
And so what they learned in space was, everything is despair, everything is terrible, let me tell the others. And
which is so comical to me, because like there's no world that's 100% despair unless it's already gone. Like that's not how humans are. That's not how people are.
That's interesting. It kind of ties into real life
It came across so flat to me.
Well, it does. It is a little bit flat. I was going to say it's kind of like real life in that it would take so long to reach other planets, and the breadth of time is so large that by the time you get to one of these planets, they might have reached the end, It's not even that, to be honest. The fact of the matter is that, like, as vast as our universe is, the height and depth of time is so much vaster. Mm-hmm. Civilizations have risen and fallen, potentially, elsewhere in the stars, what we'll never know about because we don't know how to find them. They're already gone. Yeah. There might be another, after we're gone, I'm sure more will start up. That's the thing that frustrated me about the view that they took, and they didn't really bring this up at all in the story that I saw, is that, okay, yes, all these civilizations rose and fell or are falling. What about the ones to come? There's still hope out there. There's still more that are going to rise up. If it's happened before, it'll happen again. Yeah. But instead, Vinaz's answer is learn how to suffer, not there's hope out there. There's yet hope to find. There's hope on Aetheris, and there's hope in the future.
Learn how to suffer instead of learn how to live.
Yeah.
While I love Vana, I completely disagree with her imposing her own viewpoints on an entire society. Like, if a society as a whole decides, hey, we've done everything there is to do in life, there is nothing left for us, let's move on. Who is she to say that is the wrong course of action?
But
based
also,
on our experiences, we would find that abhorrent because we have so much to live for. But if someone truly has nothing to live for as a society,
but who is to say you are right?
So here's moral relativism, right? Like straight up moral relativism. Who's she to say that they shouldn't decide it's the end? Like
quoting
kind of
quoting
fuck
Hades
off. Like
himself,
who are you to say it's my turn to end? Like, I know it's individual versus masses of people, but if you have secret knowledge that hasn't been shared of events that are going to unfold and how this plan is the problem, it's your duty to do everything you can to save it, no matter what, even if saving it doesn't look like the way they want you to save it.
Especially when you yourself used to be part of that governing body that would be perfectly positioned to actually help.
Yeah.
And should care about your old coworkers.
My biggest
and your protege, the person who replaced you.
My biggest point of disagreement with Vana is actually the decision not to tell anyone. That's I got the logic, and I disagree with the outcome. Like, so one of the 14 does something bad. You still got 13 plus, okay?
Yeah, but she didn't not tell anyone. She told a lot of people. She was just very careful about who she told.
She didn't tell the 13 people most positioned well to help.
True. I mean, I'll put it this way. My biggest problem
feels like the forum.
My biggest problem with Vana's approach is she was characterized as this fiery, passionate individual who loves the star and all of mankind as it was in her time. And then suddenly we get her just like kind of giving up and deciding to preserve the timeline we came from instead of trying to do literally anything about it. That doesn't sit well with me whatsoever.
That upsets me. Like, what? She had such a great character when we first met her that I was actually coming around, and then she was like, "I will preserve, and everything must follow the plan." And I'm like, "You're just another Ascian, oh my god!" And I don't like you much.
I like.
Well, no, that's actually what made me like her more because I'm just weird.
I enjoyed the.
Hey, that's fucking valid. She's cute. I'm not into ladies, and I still kind of like do the double take.
Well, it's more that she mirrors Hades so much that I can't not, you know.
Well, I actually wanted to mention something about that because they did a really good job of making her journey and her character and her personality mirror Hades so much, but they did not do a good job of pointing it out. So most people haven't noticed. That is where I feel like a real weakness in the narrative.
I want to rewind a bit back to Intellecties and Medion and the empathy stuff.
Yeah, let's do it.
Who else, when hearing the description of Medion's power as an Intellectie, was kind of like, hey, that sounds like the Echo?
A little bit, but I still feel like the Echo is primarily a remnant of like what any ancient could be or do.
I don't think they know what the Echo is anymore.
They've kind of bounced around so much with it that it's like it could be anything we want it to be in the story.
At this point, just before the solo duty, when we go to the field where we're delving into the past, she explains that there's two ways to do it. And that's the only thing the Echo really is in the main story. It's the ability to see and specific Echo, right? Like, so we have the ability to hear anyone.
Okay, but that's kind of my thing, though, is the Echo allows people to understand whatever someone else is saying, even if it's in a different language, and some forms of the Echo even allow you to understand, you know, quote-unquote beasts and such.
Yeah.
And then we have Medion, who converses with us, you know, when she first meets us through the energies of Dynamis, in what would probably be a very similar way, because her abilities let her to read and speak through intent of emotion.
Yeah.
She was even able, I think they mentioned that she was able to commune with the dead even.
Yes.
Like the imprint of their emotions.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean that
was specifically mentioned.
In that case, I do agree with you. Yeah.
Perhaps it's that same. Oh god, I would have to go into Final Fantasy 13 trilogy.
Well, she's just a creation that specializes in using emotional
But that's
energy.
one of the things that strikes me really as strange when it comes to the conversation of like, oh, could ancients have learned to use Dynamis?
Yes.
Which, I mean, considering Hythlodaeus, Vana, and Hades are all capable of limit breaking in Catesis Hyperborea, the answer is yes.
Again,
There's
that
just
was a
so
limit
many
break,
things.
Not a limit break.
Yeah.
There's just so many things about that I'm like, there's no way they couldn't do it. They were just ignorant of it. They needed more time to learn about it. Period.
Exactly.
Well, they have so much ether, they don't even think about it. The other.
Well,
Yeah, but when
I
they're
don't
brought
agree
up-
with that necessarily
It's not
either. It was a
impossible, they
new
just don't-
discovery.
A new discovery. If they had been given an ample amount of time to understand it, they would have.
Well, the history of Elpis is... The history mentioned in Elpis is that it was written about several convocations before now, and nobody gave a shit. Right? But we don't have any
Was
sense
it?
of time. Yeah, it was certainly mentioned. He said, where was the research on the previous Fandaniel? There was... Let me find it. I'll find it. You guys chit-chat.
The unnamed previous Fandaniel, the one
Correct.
before Hermes, right? I think
The
I
one that
remember
had been the previous head overseer of Elpis, and
Of
then had
Elpis.
Yeah,
gone to
someone who was a
Convocation.
friend of Hermes.
Okay, yeah, but that's not several convocations ago. That's like one.
Yeah,
season
that's
ago.
one seat ago. Yeah, that's not like too far in the.
How long are
the
these
past.
seats?
Very.
It varies. We have no idea, right?
Yeah, but like, if Medion's ability, for example, is similar to, reminiscent of, adjacent to the Echo, it makes me really wonder what the ancients could have done if they had actually had the time and the inclination to delve into Dynamis more, because Dynamis sounds like it should be such an important thing, and Hades' reaction to it was basically like, Dyna what now?
Why did nobody tell me?
Yeah, his nerd out moment of, oh my god, there's this cool thing and nobody told me, was wonderful, and I'm like, same, relatable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
love him. I love him so much in this expansion.
Can I just say that I found the echo that the ancients had to be a little bit underwhelming compared to what we've seen of it?
Oh yeah, it was like, this isn't an echo of a symphony, it's just, we didn't even see anything. Like,
Yeah.
there's creation magic, cool. Still
Yeah.
no symphony.
I was expecting something more on that front, so yeah, that was disappointing.
I was expecting like Protoss Mind Link, where like everyone could.
If there's
As far as
Protoss
what
mind link-
Zoela said in chat about the Echo can't influence the emotions of others, like, neither can Dynamis exactly. Dynamis is like this
Dynamis is
moving
affected
force.
by emotions.
Yeah.
It doesn't so much affect emotions as it is affected by emotions.
Yeah. That
Well,
exactly.
the echo can influence the emotion of others, maybe, but the echo does influence the emotion of the one who has the echo by others. Pointing at Fordola.
So Elia says the echo can't influence the emotions of others. People are conflating Dynamis with Meteon's power.
That's because Meteon's power is Dynamis.
Here, I grabbed the exact quote. Let me read it off.
Okay.
Hermes tells us, Dynamis is an energy put in motion by feelings from which there must first exist a source. Dynamis is just an energy field. It is affected by emotions, much like how electrons are an energy field and then it's affected by, a presence of a molecule.
Mm-hmm.
It would be like if dark energy or dark matter from like real life actually had
Exactly.
a mode of.
I think
an
they were
emotive
angling at
component.
dark matter. And
Yeah.
we
Or
don't understand
fi-
dark matter well, which makes sense because we don't understand Dynamis well.
Or Final Fantasy 13 Chaos. I was
It really
like,
is the same.
Yeah.
We're here to kill Dynamis.
We're here to kill chaos.
Oh my god.
Chaos.
I mean, if this was a FF11, Dynamis would be here to kill you so that you could de-level from 75 to 68 in one goddamn run.
Oh goody.
Did that horrible game ever come out?
What, Stranger in Paradise?
Yep.
Not yet,
I
but
forgot
it's
the
not
release
actually
date.
horrible, apparently.
Chaos. It really made me wonder if they were just using comedy to sell the game, because...
well, embrace lemons.
Embrace lemons, make lemonade. Make lemon cake, okay? Lemon muffins. That's
We
funny.
appear to have lost a code.
Well, obviously, that's an early trailer. It may well get brushed up. Who knows? One can only hope.
Yeah, the second trailer was much better.
So Cobran has
Unfortunately, people
dropped.
remember that.
Looks like we lost.
Yeah,
him.
he
We're
crashed.
probably having issues.
No worries. Where should we go from here?
The thing is
Did we-
that we were commenting on stuff that seems right now like narrative holes, but today there was this interview with Yoshi P that there were many hints about. For example, now that in February we're going to get a dump of information of 7.0. And then there were some comments apparently regarding the ancients and Hades in particular, and there was something about Libasu and Hythlodeus, which makes me think that even though they're giving again the vibe that we're done and we may be done for a while,
That
I
actually
mean,
reminds me of something I wanted to touch on earlier, but I didn't want to interject when y'all were like in the flow.
I have to say though that I always try to keep some dose of real life, even though I may sound like a party ruiner or whatever. Square Enix is a business, and they know what makes money. And the only reason they didn't go wild for Hades' merchandising in Shadowbringers is only because Yoshi P told them to hold, as he revealed in the interview.
Yeah.
Now they're going to sell us all the Emmet merch we could possibly imagine and fund the next 10 expansions off of it.
Yeah.
I
pretty much.
want you to know I had this mental image of Yoshida-san like standing there with like 10,000 plushies behind him, and he's like, "Hold!"
Yes. One brain cell.
Yeah.
One brain cell. I'll be buying that immediately when it hits the shelf.
But like, what this reminded me of is when y'all were talking about possible plot holes earlier and just various things that don't necessarily make sense, is they did say in the interviews leading up to Endwalker that there's hints for 7.0 in this MSQ, including that there was some big mystery revealed apparently in Endwalker that is our big lead-in clue for 7.0 in the new arc. And
I get the feeling that the Studium quests have been setting that up more than the MSQ myself.
yeah, like they made it sound like it should be in the MSQ, but with what they said, I was like, okay, so it should be pretty obvious what the new hint is, right? And then I'm sitting here looking at the MSQ and I'm just like, Nani the fucketh?
I like that.
I figure it's probably the whole like you haven't even gone to this place or that place, and now the stars.
Oh, but that's so surface level. It was
feel-
such a good sentence or two. We're like showing
People were
depression.
complaining jokingly that Hades was spoiling, but I think what he said was basically,
You still know nothing. Go explore.
I mean,
yeah.
so here's my thing. What Hades said there is not whatsoever revealing a mystery.
That's true.
No.
Yeah,
The only thing that we could take from his words as a revealing is when he sort of implies that he did take upon Asem's mantle for a while as a wandering adventurer. That's the most revealing thing of his words in that moment, because the other parts we knew we were going to go to these places. But the thing about Hades taking the mantle of, because he was for a time indeed, 12,000 years bearer of Asem's crystal, I think that was the real reveal to me.
I did like the line about you don't even know the true identities of the 12.
Yeah.
Surprise, it was me.
It was one of my buds. Well, anyway. Wings of War says in chat, I didn't know about Corvos until Graha mentioned it. We did know about Corvos from the short stories. This is something that that did not trip me up. It's the wrong word. It triggered my attention. It made
Same.
me.
They brought it up a bunch.
Yeah, 4, 5, 6
triggered
times.
me.
Corvos.
It's where the Garleans are
Corvos.
from, Locus Amoenus.
Yes.
Yeah, Locus
And they
Amoenus
got
is their
pushed
name.
out.
It's where they're from.
Yeah.
It's the ruins of Alag. It's where Graha's family is from. This is really interesting stuff.
They freaking mentioned Corvos so much that I was expecting it to be the last zone.
I was too. I literally was half expecting that.
Yeah, they're like
I was like, I don't know
Corvos
if it
and
could be
Locus
awesome enough,
Amoenus.
but
They called it by not only
kept
Corvos, but
bringing
its
it up.
Garlean
Locus
name, and I was
Amoenus,
just like,
Mhm.
yeah.
just over and over
Yeah.
again kept coming up. I'm very suspicious about
But
that.
you know, the amusing thing is that if you go to Mariel's agronomics in Labyrinthos, the agriculture thing. I don't know if it was in the first part of Labyrinthos or the second round of Labyrinthos, but the one researcher that's tending to the grape field, F for the square grapes, tells you when you ask this person that they've designed this particular. They mostly inspired Labyrinthus and Mariel agronomics specifically after Locus Amoenus.
Right.
Locus
The
Amoenus.
climate.
And going by the grape correlation, we could maybe infer that maybe the grapes from the short story come from this place, because there's later in Labyrinthus
No, it was an island.
round 2, there was fair. But that could be Thavner because it's across the other side of Thavner. That's where Corvus Locus Amoenus is.
I think there's a strong argument for saying that the whole Bacchus Grapes questline, which takes place on the Isle of Vilbrent, is probably that. But it's not bad to look at other possibilities. Who knows? That's not impossible.
I think I would be quite interested if that's the case, because and I actually I break many lances in favor of the Garleans a lot, because I'm a simp for the Roman Empire, and Garlemald touches many soft spots in me, but the thing is, people I see a lot of people blaming the Guardians for occupying Corvus Locus Amoenus, and I was like, it's like their homeland. They got kicked out of it.
Yeah, how do you define occupation?
Yeah, is it centuries-long expulsion? At what time does the territory belong to the people who currently live there?
Varus says as much during our sorry, I'm back.
No,
Varus says as much during our parlay with him at the end of Stormblood. You might see us as invaders, but we're just reclaiming our territory.
Nevertheless, it is not.
Yes.
I mean, if we're going by that, if we're going by this logic that hey, the Guardians were invading Corpus, then what we did for Alamigo was we were invading Guardian territory.
Yes, it's moral relativism.
Exactly.
No, everyone has a claim and nobody has a claim.
Why can't we all just get along?
That's
because
not
they
human
can't use
nature.
ether.
Yeah, because
The solution is the rejoinings, obviously.
Then everyone can use ether.
Indeed.
And then it's everybody's land.
This land is my land. This land is my land.
And we become the global community.
There's still
I know that song.
global citizen. Uh-oh.
I mean, you wouldn't be surprised if I told you that the moment I saw the mobs in the global community segment, I was screaming like a bit for reasons.
Yeah, so LA brings up a good point. Maybe the Garleans were part of an old Asian experiment, or just an experiment in general, in creating a race that can manipulate Dynamis better.
I mean,
Yeah,
that reminds me, like, for a really long time, people believed that the races as they are now were the product of Allegan experimentation.
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly used to think that
what
the
if they are?
Garleans-
Holy cow.
Yeah.
I used to think that Garleans were basically created as a sacrificial race to be the only ones left after all the rejoinings, and they were the ones that were going to be sacrificed to resurrect Zodiark.
That's
certainly
wild.
a thought.
Then they wouldn't be able to resist.
Hades' narration of Garlemald calling the Garleans the chosen Forsaken kind of would lend some credibility to that.
Yeah, because if you think about it, if they rejoined all of the shards back to the source, everyone there would be just as powerful as the Ascians and would be able to resist them. But if they can't manipulate ether like the Garleans, then they wouldn't be able to put up a fight. And I cut the chat.
Arden says everyone has their own cat girl boy in Amaron. They're the new trend.
Check out these familiars I made. If they get thundered, our souls are going to go into these bodies. It'll be awesome.
I was curious, is Ayumi still with us?
Something may come up.
I can't find you guys still. I'm so bad at this.
Check out
You
Hectares.
are.
Check out Hectares over there. He's going to be a Lalafell.
I'm in one now.
I'm literally
You're in
on
two
the
again.
top.
I swear to God. It's okay, I tried. I went all the way up. Ain't nobody there.
And we still don't know what the fuck happened to the Solus clones.
No.
Yep.
Nope.
Totally
Not
missed
really ever, is
opportunity,
my
by the
prediction.
way. Yeah, they're probably just going to be like something
It's
they
gone.
shuffle off, and it's like, well, that's fanfic territory now.
They're probably going to be like, oh, power got cut and they all sort of pooped. It happens.
Sadness.
Because it can be what anima feeds on, because it's the boundless pain attack specifically says that anima feeds on souls, and the clones don't have a soul unless you put one on
Soulless,
them.
you might say. Get it?
Yeah, but I
I
get
hate
what
it.
I'm
I
trying
hate
to.
it. I hate it. I hate it.
You're welcome.
I love you, Neela, but I hate it.
Cursed thought. But hey, I was going to say, for all the crowd we've had to eat, we were right about the foundations of so many other things.
Hey,
Like for example, Xenos did end up eating the Mother Crystal.
he did. And I was right that there was going to be an exodus by Charlene.
Did you all get my
Yes.
joke last
Yeah, I
night
expected that one.
about this scene? You may
Can you
not
say
have.
that again?
Yeah, so some of the side dialogue as you're closing out the actual quest, Endwalker, when you talk to your 8 friends, if you check out the dialogue after you've talked to them, one of them says that the iPod doesn't have a feature that will move itself to you, so it had to be someone's wish to have sent it your way.
Turianja, who
The
said.
iPod?
Yes.
The
The
teleportation
teleporter.
device.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, the iPod.
yeah.
I noticed that too. I immediately, the moment I saw it fall, I had the impression that Medion was the one who dropped it for us.
It's pure headcanon and means nothing, but because Xenos had said, you're going home, huh, bro? You want to fight first?
Aw.
Because you intend to go home? I figured
mean,
maybe his last thought was, yeah, let's get him his teleporter, but he couldn't have known about it.
Urianja
cool.
said
He couldn't have known about the
that it was-
teleporter, but I thought it was cute.
He
and I
didn't know
made-
that?
It was my immediate
the ol-
headcanon.
He doesn't have to know about it if he has enough energy to wish, and then the wish comes true. It just happens. But personally, I my personal read on his character is he'd rather stay there with us forever, die together, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
I still like it.
I think he
You
knows.
calling it wishes
Yeah.
makes me really, really, really want an eldritch dynamis entity so we can have
Yes.
some fucking wish corruption in
Yeah,
the game.
Slanesh, right?
Please.
Yes, or alternatively, give us an Azem monster form so we can transform too.
That's funny. But no,
know-
about Xenos, I feel like he's not a sympathetic villain, and he's not even a villain. He's something else here. He's something else.
He's literally a player character that got stuck in the game.
That's right.
He's
It's
basically
weird.
a player character who has escaped all the
It's like, it's just a
cutscenes.
game, bro. I can kill him. It's no
Life
big
is
deal.
just a game, bro. But yeah, I mean, he calls us hero. He says, yeah, we got all these heroic traits fuck all that. I just like fighting and killing and fighting and killing.
I mean, I like
Well,
fighting
that's
and killing. I'm a raider.
Like having lost the fight, he knows he's gonna stay there. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
He's
and
not
I mean,
coming home.
he sees us not as a hero, but just as an adventurer. He just
Right.
sees us as someone, trying to make their way. Just that we're a mirror of him in that way.
And I mean, for a lot of wolves, that is kind of what they are. They, even after everything, like, they just look themselves as like, well, I went to the end of the universe, but I'm still just an adventurer making my way.
And
I definitely told him that I couldn't deny that I do just like doing this stuff. I picked that dialogue choice.
Oh, I did too.
Nice.
It was absolutely my in character for me. I was like, that's totally me.
This I
legit.
cannot deny.
Yep.
That's definitely what I did too.
Yeah. And, I think it's interesting that we're going to be getting island, whatever, the island house thing.
Island
Island
Sanctuary.
Sanctuary.
Island Sanctuary, thank you.
Mhm.
And I think, and I posted this in Discord, that is actually headcanonly a good stopping off point for a lot of Warriors of Light, where it's like, yeah, you did this thing, you saved the universe, and then you became a farmer.
Yeah, that's very
So,
Cato
like,
the
it-
Elder.
it-
A lot of Reaper mains
Yeah.
switching
Yeah.
back to the other kind of stuff.
Yeah, like you got rid of your anger, you're
Right.
still a botanist. You can go be an
Actually-
Literal swords into plowshares.
That brings up a
Mhm.
question for me that I wanted to ask you guys now that you're all of you completed MSQ.
Mm-hmm.
How do you all feel about the hint at the end of the MSQ that we're going to be returning to the adventurer life for a little while?
I think we need it.
You mean that, like, Hades brought up all that stuff, and then at the very end they
Yeah.
also, like, hinted at,
No,
like,
no, like the Scions.
The Scions.
Oh,
saved
well,
the
yeah, the
peace out of
Scions,
it.
the Scions asked us, like, specifically, what's your plans? And I was like, well, I'm gonna go, like, start a family with Hades and Lucienne. How about you?
It wasn't an option.
I'm gonna rewrite the entire MSQ for my new canon.
As am I. Yeah, I've already started.
High five.
High
So-
five.
Had to go for for a quick bathroom break.
No
What
problem.
did what did I miss?
I think that it's needed. I don't want to have to save the universe every single time there's something wrong. Sometimes I just want to go out into the field and help Farmer Joe, gather up his dogs or something, and him give me like 50 gil. Just because it's not always about having to save the world, it's about having to help people on an individual scale, and that I think is just as important. And I'm really looking forward to doing some more of that too.
Yeah, I think that it'll be nice to do that for a while again, especially because it'll be kind of like what Hades said was like, yeah, you're going to be kind of filling your role at the same time that you're doing what you want to do anyway. So it works.
So,
From
Zoila, sorry to interject. In the interview, they said Kral will have a big role in 7.0, and maybe we'll become a student of Baldesian. I don't think we're going to become a student of Baldesian, but I do think that we are going to finally address some of the plot holes left by Eureka, and I really am looking forward to that.
I think we'll be working
Yeah.
with them because they mentioned in MSQ that students of Baldesian try and find unexplained phenomena. That sounds familiar. Extant phenomena.
And that'll be very important. That'll be very important for
But-
figuring out what the next bad thing is.
Which kind of leads into what I was going to say from a narrative construction perspective, from actually writing stories. It can feel like a letdown to go from saving the universe to just doing fun stuff, but it's also very important because if you go save the universe, okay, now it's again save it again, it gets very repetitive, and I think they're intentionally trying to avoid that, and I do appreciate that.
I think what could be interesting is that right now the entire arc of Arian Reborn to Endwalker has been basically mostly an existential philosophical one. No one was really a villain except a very few side characters like Valdens. But no one was really a villain here. In the end, everyone came together, former Asians with Venan, Heidelin, and the Warrior of Light, Zodiac himself, was trying to help, was asking us for help. And he was part of this kind of doomvirate of keeping Ethereus safe from the Song of Oblivion. Even Meteon herself was a victim of
Everyone
it.
except Amun, who started to reconsider and was immediately murdered so he couldn't become sympathetic. Oh, sorry. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. Do I sound bitter? Goodness me.
That was Asahi and fuck him, but
He overpowered a fucking I was just laughing because a Sundered Soul's overpowering. Oh god, this is so ridiculous. I can't even take it seriously.
I mean, some people will say
They're both
karma. I
sundered.
was like, meh.
Yeah,
Karma
they're both sundered.
This game is not about punishment, except when it is.
Yeah.
They're really struggling a little with the tone, I think, because it's
Yeah.
like forgiveness, reconsidering, doing
Well,
better. Except you, fuck you.
Well, except Are
Are we
not
talking
really,
about
because
Amon
Amen.
specifically.
Amen.
Yeah, because the shard of him that we fought in the Ethereal Cease is specifically
Yes, it is.
all his.
Yeah, he was ascended as Ammon, and so he is Ammon.
Well, I mean, there's more to it than that because of the triple triad card. Let me see if I can find my TT card for it real quick.
But I want to
It
say
is
after
the-
the fight during the cutscene with Asahi, you God, I gotta keep it a little more quiet.
I think, anyways, he gets his moment because his problem was that as Ammon, he has not died ever since,
Yeah.
and he had his memories burned into him and then reawakened. So actually, what Asahi did to him feels like some sort of punishment, but at the same time, is like in the end, you're going to
I can
have
see
a
you didn't
new
read my
chance.
story.
I felt that it was
You're
very
going to have a new
even-handed.
chance.
I really had no problems with this particular cutscene. After defeat, he takes
it-
on a much more
It almost made
hermetic
me
vibe.
quit the game.
Really?
I'm not joking. I'm not actually joking.
I-
It almost made me
I-
quit.
but I-
it was
I
so
was.
fucking bad.
I
I
will
looked
start
at
with
this and I was like, most people are gonna be like, that's karma. Even though he's literally having a moment where he's like, wait, did I fuck up? Is there another way?
Yeah,
And
was
it's like,
my
haha,
answer
just kidding.
wrong?
You don't get to decide. Fuck you.
He literally was saying, "Was
It's
my
very,
answer
very
wrong?"
against. It's so very against the tone of this narrative where we get second chances so much in A Realm Reborn. Someone fucks up. Oh, let's give them a second chance. They can do
Yeah.
better.
No, you're right, and I
Except for you.
don't disagree, except and
You
this-
don't like
there-
him as much as
well,
me.
there's going to be some inconsistency in my opinion here, so bear with me. But like even for the most even-handed judge, there's a point at which you've done too much, and like the character going all the way back to Alag was doing fucked up shit. Has engineered the apocalypse and is having doubts at the end when they've lost. So at what point is it okay to force their soul into the life stream and have them
Here's-
be reborn? At what point
There's
is
a
that
difference
acceptable?
between forcing him into the life stream and what Asahi did, is there not?
Well,
There's
Because
being
he says he
reborn,
does- he
and
does-
then
he
there's
even if you
something
should
different.
be reborn, you'll have to start your search
Yeah.
for knowledge from scratch.
but he still sticks him in like
Yeah.
super hell. The super
He sticks
hell
him in
hole.
super hell, which is not the appropriate thing there.
super hell.
There's no reason we shouldn't have treated Asahi like all the other souls we fought on the way down there. Kill it and move on.
I'm not convinced it's super hell. It could be.
It's strictly it's specifically stated to not be normal rebirth sort of thing.
Maybe I missed it.
Yeah, you did.
Sure. I mean, the underworld seems like a liar place. The way we navigate in the ATS scope, like for example, the way I understood it, the upper reaches is where we mostly may have commune with Heidelin, the same way as the anti-tower. The second zone, the abyssal plane, is where most souls are can be found drifting away, and they go. And once they're ready to accept rebirth and be cleansed, they go to the most deeper depths. And that's and what Asahi tells Amon is that he's going to have to start anew. And search the answer because of memory cleansing, as far as I recall. So I think the point is when Amon said that the story of Hermes ends here is because next time there's not really going to be anyone to awaken his memories as Hermes.
He got
Prob-
soul blended.
Yeah.
Like, remember when the Scholar was talking about the two different theories of rebirth, how some people think souls are
Yes.
reborn and some people think the energy blends.
Yeah.
He got blended.
The thing that's odd to me about that entire thing is the text
Yeah.
on the Undying card,
hmm
because it makes it sound like this was a separate piece of that soul, as if he'd been resundered upon
very
entering
weird,
the
but
live stream
I'll have
already.
to read it myself.
It's very weird, but I kind of think it's probably getting at the fact of who or what is ascendant. It's not the convocation seat, it's not the head of overseer of Elpis, it's the reborn life is
That's
ascendant.
right. And this fits in
I
well
could be wrong.
with the stuff. No, that fits very well, even with the stuff from Shadowbringers. So the end of Eden, for example, Gaia isn't Logrif. I mean, I know it's only one death and rebirth, but like she wants to live
Still
her
a
own
different
life,
person.
and Amon wanted to live his own life too, but decided to join the team. And a person beleaguered by regret even since ancient days. He's
Well,
having a
They,
rough life.
they ended up doing it for
decided
their own
to-
reasons.
I know.
Decided to
wasn't
go
help.
with the team, not really. The reason Amon was never loyal to the Asians. He was loyal to Emperor Sande. The reason that's implied that he joined the Asians was to get back at them for causing the Alax fall. But meh. I mean, that's his special case in that, you know, that he got his memories back, but he didn't feel identified with that person because he was too perhaps because he was too different by then.
I guess the only contention I truly have on this business is the choosing of the word super hell with all of its connotations in the Christian mythos, circles of hell and Dante. I'm not sure. You'll have to convince me. It could be as simple as showing me a line I missed.
It really gave me the sense that Asahi was like ripping him out of the life stream rebirth cycle to basically create a hell for him as a punishment for what he did with Asahi's body to screw over Xenios.
Yeah,
Which that
Asahi
whole
character
conversation was funny too, because he's like, I like what you did with the place, but you shouldn't have screwed Xenos over. Well, make up your mind.
Yeah,
engineering
I mean,
Xenos'
that's
betrayal
Asahi.
were the
What
exact
did you
words.
expect?
That was an interesting line because you could take it two ways actually.
I agree that in chat that the hell for Amon is that he will never find the real answer to the question. Though in truth, there's no answer to the question.
there's the answer that we make every day when we get up. There's no
That's the
one
answer.
answer.
Yep.
The answer is the journey.
And it has
That's
to
the
come
moral of
from within.
Endwalker, actually. One of them.
Yeah.
Which
I
is,
think
it's
we
not
should
about that
shift
it's gonna
gears
end.
over to what Yamato Sato brings up.
Okay.
So what's gonna happen with all the other shards of Zodiark? Are they still there?
Yeah, or even like shards of like say Hermes or anybody else. Like
Or
what's gonna happen with
even-
them?
Hydaelyn.
Hydaelyn, yeah.
Shards of, you said
She
shards of
she did
Zodiac?
she did in fact specifically confirm in Endwalker that yes, she sundered herself.
Yeah, it's confirmed
Yes,
that she
the
sundered
Watcher
herself.
Because I've had to
confirmed
fight that fight before and after
The
Endwalker.
shards
Yep.
of Zodiac are stored on the planets that are still extant.
Oh,
And-
Tarkia, Tarkia says I want to go to the shard where we go to the moon and there's just like a leg. I was actually joking with
That's
people
really
in our chat where
It's-
we were
it's-
the ones who are done.
It,
That it's like Hydaelyn and Zodiark, and they each had an arm in that shard, and they're just arm wrestling.
Yes.
That's cute.
it's Varys all over again.
Yeah, the line
No.
about sundering was and I sunder us. She said us. Meaning
Yeah, Demi
everyone.
Bahamut brings up a really good point. If all the Zodiarks were killed on all the shards, then all of that ether is going to go back to the shards and
That's
the
right.
source. And we already know on the source that we're going to have double the souls in the live stream, and it's going to get really interesting having all those new souls being born into.
Thanks about the Fisher quests. Yeah.
Not just that, but in going by the first, we have first Rin telling us that she could never speak to Hydaelyn herself, but she could feel probably what was the shard of the first. But then she tells us before we go to the ocular that she can no longer feel. She feels as if the connection has been cut. And then Alibus later tells us that he can no longer sense Zodiark, not even the first, where it should be a shard after Zodiark's death. So my take is that because they are tied to the world, once both were gone, their shards, just like the shards would have gone with the source if the final days happened, they were gone as well. And that means, if that is true, that could mean, in the way I understand it, one, that if all of these shards have gone into the source, that's going to be near unsundered souls being born in the source. Two, without Hydaelyn's stasis or powers of stasis, there's nothing holding back for the world naturally trying to mend into a rejoin complete Theris. And third, if the people of the shards consider that the source is a threat to them, we could find ourselves into a war with the shards.
I wonder what will happen if Y'Stol is ever successful in opening that door, as it were.
Go say hello.
Being able to travel. Like, sure, she wants to go visit the first, but you could go to any of the shards if you figured out a way to do it with the first.
Actually,
and then,
on
like,
that
what would
thread-
happen?
Yeah, on that thread, I mean, we have Emmett Suck's dialogue again at the very end. He says some of the
civilizations, yes, and I'm like, I want to see them.
Yeah,
I
so
want to see more Zem shards and everybody else.
We all know
shards.
that Stola drives the plot, and that every single foreshadow she has ever mentioned has come true. So we will be getting that in one of the expansions, and we will start shard hopping. That's
I
my
mean, I
opinion.
wouldn't be surprised
Glad
if
I
we
hope
get
so.
shard hopping, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get
It could
more
even be this
time
expansion, I don't
traveling,
know.
because, I mean, freaking looking at Final Fantasy XI, they had an entire expansion that was, in
So-
the past.
So on the topic of time travel, going back to that, I'm fully expecting an expansion where we have to deal with paradoxes and have to clean up the mess we've made.
That could be
I'd
fun.
love that. I'm not optimistic, but I love that.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
I want to scoot up a little bit in the chat, if it's okay. Not too
Yeah,
far.
go for it.
Demi Bahamut said, if Zodiark dying killed the other shards his other shards as well, then both the source and every remaining shard is going to be flooded by the same aspected ether. I don't... Multiple rejoinings at once. I don't think there are any rejoinings happening anymore. This is just
I
souls
kinda wanna
going back
touch
into
on
live
that.
streams.
I want to touch on that a little bit because it's been driving me crazy ever since I did the Studium quest
Same.
for Fisher. So if anyone hasn't done
I'm
the
gonna mute myself. I have not done
85 plus Fisher quests yet,
I've already
probably
been
mute the
spoiled,
stream
and
for a
I'm
little
happy
bit.
to. Yeah, it won't
Yeah.
take long.
So there's a point in the Studium quest for Fisher where the catboy that you're helping wants to check the etheric balance of the ancient world, and decides that the way to do that would be to have a fish from that time so that he could check the amount of ether in the scales and compare it to a fish of modern day. So you go back in time and you get him a fish, and after studying the fish, he suggests that the world in its present state is actually returning to pre-sundering levels of ether, which is very strange considering we only had 7/14 of Zodiark, or 8/14. I get numbers.
Yeah,
I think,
seven.
I think our
We have
resident
seven.
7
wavelength
plus source
expert
8.
can
Yeah,
figure
that'd
this
be
one out.
8. Yeah, so 8/14
Alright.
of Zodiark. So it makes me wonder if in destroying Zodiark, somehow all of his other shards got sucked into the source.
It still
But you wouldn't
feels
think
like
that would cause a problem.
it still feels like there's something missing though, because the other shards are still out there.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, it feels like from how they have the cosmology set up and how they're describing this and what they're hinting at, it feels like we ought to be in for a bunch of rejoinings. Do I think they're gonna do a bunch of rejoinings? No, and that makes me mad, but that's okay. But it feels like they're setting up for this, so I'm wondering what they're gonna do and how they're gonna deal with it.
I mean, they have. It was Koji Fox himself who said that the world being sundered is not precisely the best state that Theris could be in. So the thing is that that's aside Vena's kind of short sight regarding the sundering, because she did it only with the threat of Meteon in her head. But now that Meteon is the threat of Meteor is over. Now what? So that's the thing. Of course, I think rejoinings are going to happen, but they're not going to happen as the Asians made them happen. The thing with the Asians is that with Hydaelyn there as the power of stasis, they had to sort of break through and force the rejoinings to happen. But with Hydaelyn gone and stasis gone, change is going to happen. So there's nothing now that prevents this. However, it could be something without the Asians who actually knew how actually got to master this. Without them to check on this, either we get some advice from those who knew, or someone's going to have to look into how rejoining workings work, because that's redundant. But sorry, today I can't speak, because that can be problematic if there's a surplus of ether that Asunder the Theris cannot hold. So yeah,
It's wobbly because with both of the Elder Primals gone, it's like, well, okay. What happens if a calamity or over-aspecting of ether happens on another shard? Because, I mean, I could see that being our entryway into other expansions, honestly, where we just, we sense or otherwise observe something is happening in the other shards, with elements going out of whack or something, and we find a way over there to try and fix it. But there's just so much we don't know because they've left it open-ended, and Endwalker really muddied the water with a lot of the metaphysics.
Just responding to a bit of chat here.
I
don't think there's any problem answering the chat. There's no problem with the rejoining of respecting life. There's no problem if they went for a rejoining like this. If people naturally die and they, instead of going into the shard, they pass into the source live stream naturally because there's no barriers. The thing was the Asians had to force the breakthrough because of restoring their world, and that was what caused the massive destruction. But now, if it's a natural thing and the state of the world is unnatural, that's...
See,
I was going to say that if there's anyone to blame, that would be Vena in the first place for being reckless and short-sighted. In regards to what could happen after Meteor was defeated.
See, I kind of disagree myself, because I feel like the fact that the shards haven't already rejoined with the death of Hydaelyn means either her shards are still lingering in the shards and they're holding that barrier, or that something else has to be overcome before they would rejoin naturally on their own. If her death didn't cause all the shards to rejoin, then they're still separate, including the live stream. I don't see them saying, oh, well, here's a gentle way to do it. I'd love that, but it's going to be the territory of fanfic. And they do maintain this, like, well, those people have their lives and histories, and it would be wrong to wipe that out.
I feel like it's going to have to be a lot of fanfic to really noodle that out in any detail, because they're probably going to take it's got to be one way or the other kind of stance. You can't really rejoin without the violence and the ending and the essentially genocide. I don't see a gentle path being available.
I imagine the shards will remain as they are until they've decided through some sort of plot convenience or either way, without judgment, just true.
Assume it would be rather, if they're assimilating to the source, it would be a matter of in-game time, perhaps centuries, so we can have the time to explore them. So I don't think it's really an issue in that regard. But I think personally that it's a foregone conclusion. And
Time skip.
I was actually thinking about time skip last night after the story because of the going separate ways plot thread, but given that we have patch content for this expansion, I don't think we're going to get a story I don't think we're going to get a story skip inside an expansion, and so they're going to have to detangle the going separate ways thing at some point with some sort of we're getting back together to solve a problem, and I just don't know when a good time would be to have a skip except between expansions. So maybe 7.0 will get one, but I'm sure between now and then we're going to do stuff together. So
and then eventually Alphino and Alizé will grow up. Rainy Guile will grow up.
I mean, they'll probably be as old as, say, Emanolane, because you know his model is taller, but he's not quite full adult Elizen. So they'll probably hop up to his height.
Emanolane, Sicard, best ship of Endwalker.
Heck yes.
Yeah. I actually shouted. I didn't
agree.
shout, but I said, so they're friends now?
Take that back.
That was the most unexpected shit, but I love it. I love that for them. Two characters I don't give a shit about, put them together, they're awesome.
Yeah, they're the same age group, so it's perfect.
So
I'm still not over the fact that Sicard is voiced by the same person who voices Xenos.
I know. So Manolane's technically with our
continue
bestie.
to have work.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to point out, one of the things I had predicted that might be problematic is if Grahatia died during Endwalker, and he did, which effectively ended the bloodline of Alag and nullified the pact with the Void. So I'm expecting a Void invasion relatively soon.
You think that that death in Ultima Thule is something the Voidson can hold into? Hey, he died, even if it was for
even if
30 minutes.
I think even
I
if
don't think they
technicality
paid
would
that
count.
much attention to their own story, honestly.
I like to give them a little credit.
I do as well. I just don't see
I
that
feel
as a
like they were
death.
doing a... Sorry.
No, it's okay.
I feel like they were doing a weird thing with their friends are still... Their souls are still around. They're still, like, they're powering the stone so you can get around. So they weren't, like, dead, life stream dead.
Like phased
It's
somehow.
like when someone has codes on a table in the hospital and they get the heart going again. Did they actually die? How it gets a little squidgy, you know?
It does, yeah.
Yeah,
you might be right. You totally might be right.
I'll address Sludge Friends that they felt nothing about the deaths in Ultima Thule, despite how they tried to play it up. I did a little bit over Thancred's just because it was so sudden, but the others was like, oh, okay, they're just doing the sacrifice and rebirth thing.
Yeah, as soon as they sacrificed the second one, I was like, oh, okay, I see how this is going.
Thancred is the like, what the fuck? But then when you start to realize how Ultima Thule works, it's like, oh, okay, so it's basically a device. The way I feel it, departure, deep departure that happens in Ultima Thule is Hades and Hythlodeus living, and even then maybe not be gone forever.
Yeah. But like if that had been how Thancred ended, it was just no big event, no big cutscene, just blink, he's gone.
Where'd he go? We can't find him yet.
Yeah, that would have been so effective and impactful.
It would have been so heartbreaking, man.
Oh my god!
I imagine that
someone's just gone when they die. It's not like you get to complete your story.
The Thancred enjoyers would have reacted like Neela did to Elidibus.
God, and I mean, understandably, I feel that.
I would have been furious if they'd done something like that to Emmett. So I would not be happy if they did that to anybody at any of the Scions, because I'd be like, oh, I feel so bad for the people who like Thancred or whoever else.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more cold-hearted in that regard.
I'm like, everyone's gonna die. Like, we just had a whole ass expansion about how living forever is bad and we have to die someday. Like, okay, so let's see it. Not like I'm like bloodthirsty, but I mean, life is like that.
Only for your faves.
Mm-hmm.
It's Ultima Thule is like impactful in the. Sorry, Ultima Thule is impactful in basically from Alphino and Alizé setting the Endwalking section for you. That's the impactful thing, because the Endwalking was really deep, and it ends with the terrible Amoratine trio getting reunited, and that's That's I think that's a really, really emotional part of 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 Ultima. That
Yeah, well, like, and the reason for why the deaths hit differently, in my opinion, is because narratively there's a sort of a spectrum with this sort of thing. We write stories. Sometimes we want to have a happy everyone lives. We get all our cool friends, fantasy, everything's perfect. And sometimes we're writing a story where it's like, this is very real. It feels very real. It hurts the way real life does. Some people are going to be like, not my character. Don't touch him. This is too real. I can't deal with it. And I usually fall on the make it real, make it hurt side.
And then they did it to your boy. They did it to your boy.
You know why I don't like that?
Because they didn't do it very well.
Because they fridged him specifically to consume him later. That's all they did.
Yeah, they turned
if it had been a story and then he gave himself at an impactful moment, I'd have been singing their praises from the skies. But they literally put him. The only reason they didn't kill him in 5.3 is because we're gonna need a power source later. Okay, thanks. That makes me feel real good. That's the reason I don't like it, because of how it was utilized, not because it was utilized.
And I think it's a tool that Ishikawa tends to kind of overuse, where they do the fake out death and then they kind of discard the side. She kind of discards the side characters a little bit.
Yeah.
And I love Ishikawa's writing. Don't get me wrong. I think she does an amazing job. But there are some things that I wish she would go a little further with. Like in Heaven's Word, they killed a Sail, they killed Arshfont. Spoilers if anyone hasn't finished that. If you haven't, I don't know why you're here. But I just wish they would have kind of the, for lack of a better word, the balls to do that again. Because ever since Stormblood, I feel like they've been trying to play it a little safer.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I am assuming that they realize that at least the vocal portion of their player base wants the happy ending sort of thing. But I think that sometimes they mistake the vocal portion for the large portion, which it's not. Most people aren't vocal about it. You get the 80-10-10 or whatever, you know?
Right.
Well, in the case, I mean, I'm fine with either. I have to say that each time, in Hades' case, for example, each time it has felt, and Endwalker was actually a kick to the gut, like twice in that regard, because they made us say goodbye to Hades rather brusquely at the end of Hyperborea, and it was like, how dare you make me do this?
And even have us like reach out to him as we're flying away. It's like,
and then
I had to stop at that point.
And then we got, Ultima Thule felt more like this feels like a proper goodbye, if it's the case. But then Hythlodeus, being the gremlin he is, goes, if not in this life, then perhaps another, whensoever. And then I'm like, whensoever. I know what you're playing, Rider Team.
I'm really curious if the Ethereal Sea transcends time, because...
it probably does. It's probably a timeless place.
Yeah, I'm gonna just be side-eyeing any characters that pop up with bright gold, purple, or blue-green eyes at this point.
Are you a husband?
We've already seen one NPC pop up with purple eyes, and I'm just kind of like,
Is the NPC a baby? Because otherwise...
What's that?
I said, is the NPC a baby? Because otherwise...
No. But if it's not linear in the Ethereal Sea, then you could be like, why do I have memories of the future?
I don't know.
Yeah, which...
How does an unsundered baby manage to live in a sundered world?
I don't know. Here's another thing I have an issue with, which I was rewatching Foul's playthrough, and I'm like, oh, Hythlodeus does use creation magics.
Yeah.
How does he do that if he's sundered?
He's not.
He is.
Zodiark
was sundered.
If Zodiark's pieces have gone into the source, then he's unsundered.
If.
Unless all the pieces of Zodiark were destroyed and all the souls came back to the source.
That would be the gambit, would be the destruction of Zodiark that Elidibus can no longer sense on any shard, presumably.
That's the only
means
way I
that
can.
But they
Right.
might have
reconcile
gone
that.
back to their individual live streams. That would be my
Correct.
assumption. That seems the logical thing. Again,
Yeah.
like we know there's still this separation because the shards haven't rejoined.
There's definitely some
Right.
sloppiness that exactly is what you're speaking to. Like there's stuff
Yeah.
like this.
I mean, it was a
throughout.
huge expansion. There's always going to be
Yeah.
holes. I'm not saying, well, I found some plot holes, so it
We-
sucks. It's still
we-
really,
no,
really good. But I have to.
it is.
I can't help but focus on them. You know.
We have a
No,
whole
it's fair.
doc
It's our
full of
job. It's
our
our job to
questions
do
and
that.
puzzles.
And they can always explain the thing if they notice a plot hole. They can always explain in future
The
passes.
plot holes that truly matter are typically retconned properly at some point,
Yeah.
which we mentioned.
So I don't
before.
really mind in that regard. One way or another, we'll find out what happened, and it will probably make more or less sense.
Yeah. I mean, I have faith in the writers. I'm just kind of like, I want
same.
answers now.
Yeah, we're like, we want the answer now because theory crafting is like this quicksands that you're kind of give me some solid footing, but it's in a game that's constantly developing like an MMO. It's of course in due time. It's not like they're going to give it to you immediately. So
Right.
but yeah, I do have some faith in them. Shadowbringers for the most part prove that they know what they're doing, and Endwalker doesn't have to be different, really.
Mhm.
Well, I'm wondering if this is a good opportunity to close session 1 here. What do you guys
It's
think?
probably a good idea. I mean, we've
Yeah.
been going for about an hour, 2 hours and a half.
Yeah,
Oof.
there's a lot
Has
to
it
talk
been that
about.
long?
Yeah.
I mean, and Walker's
Damn.
so much to go through that it's like
Oh, yeah.
unsurprising.
I have plenty more to
Yeah.
say, and we will be continuing to bounce around, so don't you
Yeah, I
worry.
think the one thing I'd like to end off on, at least for I think
Mhm.
I speak for all of us in saying that this was still a really good expansion, and it was
Yes.
a lot of fun. Like, even for all of our criticisms, they're all coming from a
Oh, yeah.
place of love.
We could take a moment and do favorite moments really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Does
It's a hard
Meowth want to go first?
No, I
I
have
already
to
know
think.
mine.
I have to.
So do
I
I.
have to think.
Do you want to go?
I can give my favorite moment. It's just my original favorite moment. There were so many, but the one that I really enjoyed was the solo duty against Vinay and Elpis. I liked it because of the music and the phasing and the reveals of her job changing. All of this stuff was just so cool, and even though it wasn't extremely difficult, you did have to obey mechanics, and I liked that I got a duel. On that same token, I really liked the duel at the end of the game. Same reasons, same exact reasons, just a different set piece. So I'm a huge fan of the solo duties in this expansion, and specifically the Vinay fight.
Xenos was for not all along.
So that's me.
For me, and it may not be surprising considering I've been a Fandaniel fan since 5.3, but the Hermes stuff was very close to home. So when we made it to Ultima Thule, I remember being so annoyed. I'm like, we were supposed to bring flowers. He can't do it. We have to do it. I was so mad. And then when we got there and did the creation thing, it was the flower. I screamed so loud. That moment, I just sort of like broke down a little.
Flower
And then his
for your
narration started, and I was just gone. That was
I was
such a gorgeous moment.
I was cackling so much watching you go through and like
I imagine you were.
complaining about the flower.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is so good.
Yep.
Oh, it was.
It's
It was
good.
so good.
I love that so much.
I would say it's hard for me to nail down a single favorite instance because I have three.
Mm.
My first one where that really hit me was Quintus's last scene in Garlemald. That just hit me really hard.
Grand Glorious Dream.
Yeah, the Grand Glorious Dream speech. And then when the doors open to Elpis and just the lead up to that, that whole part, just, oh my God. It was just complete perfection for me. And then the last one would have to be the Xenos' speech at the end. after everything's done and you're just both laying on the ground, just him finally just completely opening up and telling you, you know, this is what I am, and this is what I think you are too. And it just, he dies in the middle of it, and it just hit me really hard.
I'm assuming Ayumi's still gone.
Seems like it.
I'll go next. I would also have difficulty pulling out like one favorite scene or like moment, particularly because they don't all just sit in Elpis. Like I did genuinely have a lot of fun with the Scion's expansion, seeing things like Estinian and Ritra interact and stuff like that. But obviously, I have to go with just being able to like go and see Hades as he was in the past, and the whole experience of Elpis with him and Hythlodaeus, their dynamic. How everybody, like Hythlodaeus talks about how everybody, as him included, referred him to that job because he was like just like someone who helped a lot of people, was very well regarded. You got a really good glimpse of like the person he had been before he fell so far into what he ended up becoming when we see him in Shadowbringers. So I really appreciated being able to have that insight. And then the whole "do not squander the legacy that I leave you" thing, like a total flip from his Capitals thing, where he's like, "You cannot be entrusted with our legacy. I leave my legacy to you." I teared up. It was so good. I was so grateful for that.
That impacted me as well, not to the point of tears, but I really enjoyed that scene. That was good.
I ended up having to take a couple hours after that before I went to see the Vanaw like conclusion bit, like in Elpis. Just sitting with that, like it was really good.
Is that everyone?
I think maybe Arden?
I'm thinking.
Did Meowth go? I had to step away very briefly.
No, I'm trying to think.
Oh, it doesn't have to be perfect.
If Arden wants to go first.
Sure. If I'd say probably one of my favorite moments is just, there's two that are kind of top. I really enjoyed getting to tease the shit out of Hades.
Oh my god. When he tells you not to take him over the waterfall, and you do it anyway.
Yeah.
Perfect. Brilliant. Love it.
That was great.
And
then the part
about
about
a word about this to ask him.
Yeah, and then there was, you know, the dialogue option where you could be like, well, if my ether's a little thin, that's his fault.
Canonically having Hades Aether now from now on.
But the other thing that I like that's not as like haha amusing is I really enjoyed the way they portrayed Hades reacting to our story of the future. I think his reaction was very well done, like the sheer offense. And the way he stormed out, like from the voice acting to the animation to the motion capture, like that was really, really good.
They did a really good job to the point where I was like, I wanted to go after him, and Hythlodaeus was the only one they let do that. I was like, come on, let me go console him, damn it.
Yeah.
Shit. I don't think he's a megalomaniacal madman.
I don't either. I thought a lot of that was like, that's definitely not what my character would have said in that conversation.
Yes.
I wanted to know in that scene though in particular why we didn't whip out the Azem crystal to try and like
I was yelling that. I was yelling that during that scene.
Like, show him the crystal he made. He made that. He could look at it and say, I made this. So there must have been some truth to what you said. Like, but we didn't do that, and I don't know why.
Yeah, I was going crazy throughout Elpis. Like, as much as I, like, really, really enjoyed it, and I really need, like, an anime of just Hades and Hythlodaeus. Like... Like, it drove me nuts that none of them used the echo on us. We didn't hardly use the echo. That
exactly.
It was kind of a disappointment.
Yeah, it was like, I'm looking at people who should all have it, and none of them are using it. What the hell?
I have to say a note on why not show the Ascent Crystal. In the moment, I understand why would you think that, but later when we reunite when Vana and the Word of Life reunite with Hades and Hythlodeus, and they speculate on maybe Fandaniel, that is Hermes, hid the truth from the convocation, and Hades immediately explains that no, the convocation has we have our methods to know immediately someone is telling the truth. So when Hades, so if this is true, then that means that when Hades was so affected by our story, he was basically trying to cope by saying it can't be true, but he, as part of the convocation, knows it was true.
Knows we weren't lying. That doesn't mean we're not insane, but it means we weren't lying.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah, it just means
But yes, I'm
we
sure there was
believe
some
it to be
coping.
true.
Do you have
But-
this sort of Meowth? We're running low on time.
Yes. Well, most of them you've mentioned. I really enjoyed. Well, enjoyed. Enjoyed is not the word, but how well was done during that section with Vena, Hades, and Hythlodeus in the discussion. How you can see Vena and Hythlodeus taking. Immediately start jumping to discussing the possibilities. How could this happen, or how could we solve it? And Hades is just silent, and you know immediately how. I think it's one of these moments in which silence is louder. If I don't know if making it, if that makes
Yeah, that's a saying. Silence louder than words.
and in terms of moments that got me screaming was the dungeon unlocked for Ctisis Hyperborea, because I run ever since Shadowbringers, I run MSQ with trusts whenever I can, and I had been saying if they actually went jokingly mostly gave us a dungeon with Asum, Hades, and Hythlodeus, and the bastards went and did it. And I was like, oh god, that was moments for screaming. Lord Quintus' scene of suicide is still one of my favorites. It was just perfectly framed, and not because you're enjoying it really, but it's so raw.
Real. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so raw and real, and yes, I mean Garlemald as a whole, and even after the scene with the people and the Alamigan guy offering Julius the mug of something warm,
The soup,
and it's
yeah.
like, that's so great too. Julius is a really, I'm not going to say underrated character, but it's one of the highlights for me of the expansion, really.
You look like a character.
And I think that whole thing was a good reflection of hope versus despair that we saw again later on a micro scale.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and but I think the scene that most I recall the most would be probably I'm torn between the end of Hyperborea and meeting and summoning Hades and Hythlodeus and at Ultima Thule, and Hades' words in many ways, because there are many lines from him in that conversation that not just because they're great, because of their meaning actually. Yeah, I think I would go for that one, because yeah, it felt like an open a door open conclusion that I like those. I like those, and and also I have a really soft spot for Hades' suspension, for slow motion side glances, and I'm like, oh god, stop looking at me like that. No,
They
actually
knew what they
don't.
were doing. They knew what they were doing. Every time they did that, they were like, "We see you, Emmett Shippers. We got your back."
It's really funny.
And I'm like, please stop looking at me like that. No, actually, don't. Keep going.
Wow.
That's funny. Well, with that,
But
shall we close session 1?
Just a note, I have to
Okay.
say, bless Endwalker for Hitler.
Yes, 100%.
Yes.
200%.
He is ginger, he is bro, we love him.
It's really great.
I mean, like, I saw him, meeting him in the moon, I was like, this is the real one. And then Elpis came and oh, fuck.
As soon as I saw his hair and I heard that he had a voice, I was like, oh, he's coming back.
Absolutely glorious.
Anyway, we're out of time.
He has
We're out of
a
time.
really great voice actor.
Agreed. All right, well, that ends session 1 of Endwalker Spoilercast. Everyone, thank you so much for coming today. We will be live again next week, same time, same place. And we have a lot more to talk about, believe it or not. So you probably believe it
So much.
It's a lot of content to go through. So please expect that we'll be bouncing around. Tell your friends about us if you enjoyed it. If you're on YouTube, give us a like and a sub, and we will see you next week.
And if you can't wait until next week, join our Discord.
Absolutely. Let's throw that out there.
If you want to support a Meowth, then you can maybe, if you're interested, ask for a commission. I'm open for that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right, guys. I'm so glad we're back to this again.
I'm really glad we're back too. We've got so much to talk about.
Yep. All right, well, I'll
Yes.
close out the stream. I missed you all. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Have a good one, everyone.
See you.